25 of the school committee to order. This is a hybrid meeting being recorded and may be accessed via WebEx. The meeting link is on the calendar. If connectivity is lost and we have a quorum in person, the meeting will continue. Our first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a last-minute addition to the agenda who we didn't think was going to be here, but she ran off of Varsity Field to give us one final student report. So Rashita, take it away for us.
Okay, so the sophomores will be having their car wash / bake sale fundraiser on Saturday, May 31st, and the potential rain date will be June 1st. And they also made $520 off of their Panera fundraiser. The juniors, let's see. The juniors re-voted for officials next year, and the car wash will be planned for June 7th, so they have a car wash as well. And it'll be at the middle school. And so they're still planning and figuring that out. And the seniors are just finishing up their last week. We're having the field night right now. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Can you repeat that fundraiser, June 7th?
June 7th for the juniors, that's their car wash at the middle school. And for the sophomores, they're having it on May 31st, and the rain date is on June 1st.
Okay.
And there's also a new elected SCAB member that's going to be a sophomore, Akshara Agarwal. So she'll be here at the next meeting.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think we did a round of these before, but congratulations and thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
I'm going to miss you. Yeah.
I'll be here. I'll be around.
You'll be around?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Worcester's not that far.
No, it's not. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have fun tonight.
Go have fun.
Have fun tonight. Enjoy yourself.
All right. We have the approval of the warrant. Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? We're all here. All those in favor?
Oh, we don't vote aye.
Unless Megan is online.
Yeah, nope, she's not.
I vote aye, is 4-0.
I move we approve the meeting minutes of 5/13/25.
Second.
Questions? Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's 4-0. All right, so next we have the esports and drone competition. I believe it's going to be one presentation by Dennis Villano and Leroy Wong. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to be joined by Leroy and Dennis. Are you coming up, or are you going to hang in the back? All right. And again, Leroy and his students have accomplished some pretty incredible things this spring, so we wanted to highlight some of those things for the committee. So with that, I'll turn it over to Leroy. Mr. Wong, thank you for coming out.
Yes, thank you very much for having us here. So I'm Leroy Wong, and I teach the help desk or the tech exploration program here in Burlington, and let these guys introduce themselves. So they were interns during the fourth quarter senior internship, and just have them introduce themselves and talk about what we've been doing. So.
Yeah, so I'm Mohammed Al-Sakiri, and for our internship, we did like an AI drone project, which we'll get into in a second. I'm Tariq.
I'm Akil Pogalenti.
I also have some seniors that are at the senior field day. I just messaged one of them to see if he could come, so if he does, great. If not, I think I'll be able to kind of cover what we've been doing, so. All right. Okay, so we'll start, I guess, with just sort of like the drone projects we've done since about 2018 or so. So the first thing I want to do is acknowledge a couple of former students. So Eddie Reese, who was the class of 2017, and Melanie Thibodeau, who was the class of 2018. Oh, sorry, that's the next slide. So they were, I'll call them, two of our pioneers with our drone program. So Eddie was one of the first ones that got me interested with drones when the Mavic Pro was first introduced as like kind of a consumer, almost professional drone. He talked about it a lot. And then Melanie was another student who went with me to the Massachusetts Computer Using Educators, or MassQ conference, and she found out about this grant, and so then we applied for it, got $3,000, and that's how we actually got some of our first drones to start the program. So just want to talk a little bit about well, I guess first of all, what are drones? I think most of us know what they are. I guess the official technical term is UAVs, or unmanned aerial vehicles. So they include consumer and professional drones. They're used for videography, real estate, land surveying, law enforcement, search and rescue, and many other uses. And that also can include military drones used in warfare. Obviously, we don't have those, but we do just talk about those types of drones and all sorts of different drones that are used in industry, military, et cetera. And so we don't have to click through all these, but I don't know if you wanted this slideshow later, but I have various links on different ways that they are used in these various industries I mentioned. So we have worked with the Burlington Police Department. Officer Sage Costa, I believe, is the head of the police drone unit. So he's done presentations for our students. In motion pictures, they're used a lot now. It's easier to have a drone go up and capture some complicated aerial footage as opposed to helicopter pilots and camera people. They're used in agriculture now. GIS, which is Geographic Information System Mapping, they're used in that. The Casas Research Institute, which is just down the road from us, which is part of Northeastern, we've also worked with them, had some field trips there. Our group actually presented 2 years in a row. I think we're actually one of maybe 2 high school groups that presented to show what we're doing with drones here in Burlington. And there are just a whole bunch of other things on the DJI site, if that is something you want to look at later. So we do have some interesting footage that I've captured over time. I guess if Mr. Cuna could maybe click on maybe the second one. So I guess when the varsity field turf installation was happening, I thought it would just be kind of like a fun thing to capture that. So we don't have to watch much of this, but we can watch maybe like 30 seconds of it or so. So it's just like a great way to sort of get an overhead view of, you know, something that's being constructed. So obviously in the construction world, they're being used a lot so that you can kind of survey an area. You can actually kind of measure areas and things like that. So this was just like a little bit of footage that I'd captured when the turf was being installed in the field. You can go on, thanks. All right, and so our most sort of recent accomplishments, we had a couple of competitions that we were part of. So one of them was at MIT, and there was an organization called Cyber Square that invited us and several other schools from across the world, actually. So it was Saudi Arabia, UAE, Canada, India, missing a couple others. But students from all around the world were in this competition, and we actually won first place and $500 at that event at MIT. And then most recently, we were at the STEM Ed competition, and that's the third picture there. So we won third place, and we're going to be participating in the national championships week after next. And so in the next slide, I guess if you can maybe just click on that link, and I'll tell you which one to play. So there's some videos, and let me just tell you which number, sorry. So if you can show 9527, that's a little bit of a video that will show you the competition. So just to kind of explain what we had to do, and by the way, this is the drone. So we had to do a couple of things. One of them was we had to fly the drone and hover over some numbers, and then basically like land in those on those numbers in sequence. That was actually probably easier for our pilot, who's Matt Ovison, to do that. So he actually got a perfect score in both rounds, and actually I think that's what put us over the top and got us to third place. The thing that was even more complicated, though, was we had to build this mechanism, they had to build this mechanism, and so essentially it's a Lego hook. And so originally our design was just this claw, because we had to pick up tennis balls, but then also these cubes made out of straws. And those poles that you see in the video, we actually had to drop those onto the poles. So anyway, this is the one where Matt had to hover over some numbers and basically be able to sort of see them with the camera device and then land on them in sequence. And as I said, he got a perfect score with that and did a great job. Why are we indoors? You might be asking that. It was raining like crazy the day of the competition at St. Anselm, so obviously we can't fly this with exposed electronics in the rain. So that was actually very different, well, actually not so different from us, because we have practice in the gym, so we practice indoors and outdoors. But it is, I think, somewhat harder to fly indoors because we don't have like a way to sort of do a GPS lock or hold. And so it's fully manual, and it's much harder to fly than like a regular drone. All right, I think we can go on to the next one. All right, so I think I'm going to throw it to these guys to talk about the drone programming they did, and they have like a cool video to show you with some of the things they did with their internship.
Yeah, of course. So apart from the other students that did internship with Mr. Wong, we did a separate drone internship with the Tello drone, because we realized in an upcoming age there's like a lot of drone usage. We thought that there would be a lot of usage for autonomous drones in the future, and we thought we would get some insights into it, and that was what we decided to do an internship on, where we decided to program a small like Tello drone to move based on hand gestures. It's like integrating AI into like drones. So next.
You want to pull the mic a little, can the mic get a little closer?
Yeah. So here we've got a video demonstrating our drone, and basically what we did was we made it so that it follows people based on their faces. It uses AI to like detect people's faces, and we made it so that you could use like hand gestures to basically control the drone. Like this would make it go up, left, right, down, etc. And we could also make it do a flip and so on, and it could really accurately track your faces. So you could, like, if you get closer, it'll move away so that it doesn't like hit you. If I move away, it'll come closer. If I turn around and walk away, it'll follow me. And if I go in another room or basically anything, it'll follow and it'll remain locked onto my face. Yeah, and
That video is just a small 2-minute video where we like recorded all the.
So I will just add on, like, I really didn't help these guys do any of this. They sort of found the tutorial themselves. I had done a little bit of this before with some students, but they went sort of above and beyond to kind of programming like the AI aspects of it, which you can see here. And with some commercial drones, you can do this, but these guys actually kind of went deeper to understand the programming that went into how you do the recognition of someone's face or hand gestures and things like that.
This is all done autonomously.
Yeah.
We initially, during the original part of the internship, we thought that we would build our own AI model to track the human poses, but we did realize that in training a whole model in 2 months would be unrealistic. So we used one of Google's pose recognition models called MediaPipe, and it really helped us progress a lot faster than we would thought during the 2 months of internship period. And I think we have to give our appreciation to Mrs. Tyrell and Mr. Wong for giving us this opportunity to work on this.
and for giving up the equipment. Yeah.
It's almost done.
There it is. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
All right, and then the next slide just kind of shows sort of like a visual of what these guys were doing and how it can be used in like real-world applications. So the left picture, I guess with the squares, when you do sort of AI programming, you're kind of giving it a bunch of images and just saying like, this is, I don't know what that wildlife might be, but like antelope or something. And so it can sort of see and understand what those things are. So then you can have like a drone in the wild, or you can just have like cameras sort of placed in the wild. And then you can kind of like track like how many of whatever that type of wildlife has passed by. And it's going to be much easier than having like a human just sitting there and marking it down with a computer or whatever they might do, because you can just train computers to see things like this. And then, delivery automation, obviously Amazon has been trying to do that for a while. Agricultural maintenance, which I'd mentioned, that's another thing that's being done with drones. All right, so I guess we'll, are there any questions about that, first of all?
Oh, I think you got one more, is it?
Oh, hey guys. Okay, so these are two guys that are with the drone team, so thanks for showing up. Obviously, they were at field day, so I don't know if you guys want to say anything about the competition.
That sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Better late than never.
Excellent timing.
So, the best thing about the drone internship that we did was that it was a very hands-on experience that required a lot of like technical skill learning and development, and also stuff we've learned in school. We don't exactly have a lot of that kind of those opportunities in school, right? Yeah, like we don't have like a shop class or like an auto class or anything. So the drone internship was the perfect way for us as people who've never experienced those kinds of classes to get a taste of that, and I think it really helps with our learning.
Yeah. Wait, how much have we talked about the?
We talked about it a little bit. But why don't you guys say your names first, and then we do.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, my name is Fabian Thabert. I'm a senior at Burlington High School.
My name is Alexander Chang. I'm also a senior at Burlington High School.
And let's see. So wait, how much have we overviewed?
I kind of just told them about the competition, so if you guys want to talk a little bit more about what was involved, I showed the video of like Matt basically like flying the drone over the numbers and whatnot, so.
Okay. So first, I would like to thank Mr. Wong, of course, giving us the opportunity to be able to build this drone. So basically, what the competition, the objective of this competition was, of course, to build a drone from a kit, but also we had to build a mechanism, which you can see, which is made out of Lego, and we have to both pick up a tennis ball and a plastic cube, which will. The point of it was to basically simulate like a real life situation that's currently going on right now with like drones picking up medical supplies. So of course, our drones of course can't really pick up real medical supplies, but so they just simulated just using tennis balls and plastic cubes. So on the drone right here, we have a hook in order to pick up the cubes, and we also have a claw that will pick up the tennis balls. And not on this drone here, but we do have a camera in the back that we do use to make sure like we're actually able to we're in the right, how would I say this, like
the right position.
Yeah, right position in order to pick it up. Would you like to say a little bit more?
The other drone Fabian was talking about, that drone crashed and broke apart. So another thing this drone internship has taught us all as students is how to use our money wisely. That's something we'd like to be taught, I think, and we learned a lot of it during this internship, because a lot of the word going around nowadays is how people need to learn like real financial skills, real world skills in school. And I think this drone internship was a way for us to do that. Because as you can see, a lot of the parts we didn't want to spend money on. So we just used the parts we already had, parts we could scavenge off of existing stuff in the room. I think some of it's even from I think some of it's even made out of like wood or something like that. Like
I don't remember,
but yeah, the point is that we've had to make do with what we've had, and while we've already been given quite a lot, it's taught us a lot about like how to wisely use our resources, so to speak, and not go too into not go too much into debt or too much into spending to build something that can actually work, something that can actually fly and function properly.
I will point out, we have some high-tech W.B. Mason cardboard now, and so I don't know why it's missing here, but these guys are sort of rebuilding this one, I guess, for the competition, just so it'll have a little more stability for like landing and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about actually building the droid really quick?
Yeah. So like, what do you mean building the drone? Like,
You said you got a kit.
yeah, so we ordered a kit on the website that the competition was on. I don't know how long it took to ship it, but they gave us instructions on how to put the kit all together. But when it comes to like calibrating like the motors and like the software to choose, we had to like do our own research and finding which software worked the best or which one did it. When it came to the claw, that was just all DIY. That there's no like YouTube guide or anything to really help us with the claw. We've had like maybe 3 prototypes of the claw. This was the best one that helped us. One of the hardest things about using a Lego claw was on the top of the drone there's a servo, which is being a servo, and there's really no way to really connect a servo and a Lego because those are like, of course, 2 different companies. So we had to like 3D print like a converter. So it's very deep inside of there, but there's like a little converter that we use. It's like, we call it the servo to Lego converter, so which it allows the converter to move the Lego pieces to, of course, open and close the claw.
So yeah, it's the little blue thing here. So the servo is basically like a little motor, and so I guess that is what will allow us to hopefully, get this to lift up the cubes, or I don't want to break it here, or open up the claw and close it. So that's what that is, and then obviously there are motors here for the propellers themselves.
And yeah, I would say that's, of course, on the top we have our GPS module. The drone will not work most of the time if it doesn't have a GPS like a hold on where it is. It won't work at all because it uses the GPS to stabilize itself. But one thing we realized was like when we're indoors, there's no GPS. In here there's no GPS, so we have to disable that, which is kind of difficult to fly with no GPS, but we still make it work. And yeah, that's really.
Yeah. So I just, any modifications for the next competition that you're willing to share?
For the next competition, I think we will definitely be improving upon the design we already have. That's for certain, because last year's design was bad. Well, I mean,
it was a work in progress.
Yeah, and this year we have a much more solid foundation to work from, and I feel like our design, it's not perfect by any means, but it definitely is a solid start for the future drone teams to work with. And so we start with that, and I think we're also getting a new drone kit next year.
It's going to be a different type of drone next year. Yeah, so that's one thing they have told us. It is going to change for next year.
The drone we're using, unfortunately, it's very hard to control because I can't remember. Do you think it's because of an electrical issue or like?
We've had like.
Yeah, it's just been very difficult to control, and we've had to do a lot of programming, engineering, and pilot testing for it to fully work out in the end. So I feel like the new drone kit that we're getting next year will definitely smooth up the process by quite a bit. Those are the improvements we seek to make.
And I just had a follow-up question. In demonstration that you had, with the AI technology, is that something you get to show at the competitions, or is that just kind of something you guys do for fun, for learning? And
yeah, I would say that that's actually different, although I think next year they did tell us that there's probably going to be more programming I don't know if there'll be sort of like an AI sort of image recognition type of thing. But since I teach technology, I talk about AI a lot, maybe too much, but it is obviously a big topic in the news and in technology in general. So as far as like what those guys were doing with like the image recognition and whatnot, that was something that was in a tutorial. It wasn't something I'd even tried, but they looked at it and they figured it out and did just an amazing job, I think, with figuring out how to do that. Because commercial drones can do a lot of what they were showing you, but obviously you have to pay to, I guess, have that research and development, that capability built into it. So they basically were taking our drones, which really, those toy drones, the tele drones, which really aren't, quote unquote, meant for that. And I guess you can say they sort of hacked it to do that. So it was really impressive that they were able to do that.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Go ahead.
What year are you two?
Senior.
We're seniors.
You're seniors, so you won't be here for next year.
No.
No.
So,
Where are you going?
UMass Lowell.
Texas Tech University.
And what about the kids that,
They're not seniors.
the three that were here before, the three boys?
They were juniors, I thought.
Yeah.
Are they
I think they're in the
seniors or
hall.
Also
juniors?
seniors. I'm not
Are they seniors?
sure where they're going yet, but they are seniors, yeah.
Yeah, they're all seniors. Do you have any girls in the program?
Not in this specifically, but like that's something we want to obviously have more diversity, have more girls. I mentioned Melanie, who was great, and that was several years ago.
She
Another
graduated in my
student,
daughter's
Katia
class.
here, who was a valedictorian, and she's actually getting her PhD in AI, so she had some involvement with what we'd been doing before. So part of it is, I'll be honest, like there are a lot of boys that kind of do this program, and then I think sometimes girls get a little bit maybe intimidated, or they think like, oh, it's a boy thing. But I think that's something that I'm always working on to try to have more girls participate.
It's fascinating. You've done a really nice job. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Question. So what happens to this drone now? Once this competition's over, how will you guys use it moving forward? And like, how many do we have? Do they go into retirement? Do they come out of retirement?
So, I mean, after the competition, I'm pretty sure like Mr. Wong is gonna keep it for the next year, because one thing, coming into this, the team last year, we still had their drone too, so we like took like advice what they did and you just build up upon that. So I'm guessing the same thing is gonna happen. It's just gonna continue to build on, and then hopefully the next team goes to nationals and then continues. So
Yeah, even though it'll be a different type of drone, like we'll still have these, they'll still function. I think there's still like a lot that we can learn, from this design as well. And it's a fairly popular kit, so yeah, we'll still use it and learn from it.
And do you guys name them?
Should I say again?
You guys name them?
we should, but
I mean, the last one, I think we did name it something.
Devil something. What's our team name?
Red Devil Pilots.
Red Devil Pilots.
Yeah.
That's our team name, but we don't. Maybe that's something next year.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Flying Devils, like something like that.
Yeah.
Great work, guys.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing with us.
Thank you.
So, and I'm hoping we're not taking too much time. I think the next set of slides is on esports. Do we still want to continue with that? And I can go through this.
Yeah, did we lose the other three? Did they leave, or they were just, they did?
Well, yeah, since they're
Okay,
seniors.
okay, yeah. If you need to go back to field day, we're good.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through. Yeah, thank you guys. Have fun. All right, so I'm just going to quickly talk about esports. So I'm one of the coaches for that. Nolan Hart is my assistant coach, and I'll talk about him more, but he actually was an esports athlete at Winthrop University. So he actually did get not like a full scholarship, but I think at least like a partial scholarship to play this game called Rocket League, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so the next slide, what is esports? So it's basically competitive video gaming. We've had it at BHS for several years. So I think for a few years I ran it as a club, and then as of last year, we were officially part of athletics. So it's officially organized, sanctioned, or whatever under the MIA and MSAA. So there are a couple of pictures here. So Area 123 is a room where the students will practice and compete in. Actually, I think Fabian has a VR unit there. We don't have competitive virtual reality yet, but Fabian's actually in this picture here. And then on the right, there was a facility called Helix Esports, and that was kind of like an esports arena in business. Unfortunately, went out of business, but it was an amazing place. It was actually at Patriot Place, so you could go there and compete or have like a party or whatever. So we have been able to get to the state championships several times, and that's that picture is from last year, that second picture there. So next page is just some of the esports or games that we play. So you probably know some of them, even if you don't play them. So Madden is obviously football. Mario Kart is basically like animated racing. And then Rocket League, I guess I'll describe that as a flying car soccer game. It sounds weird and crazy, but that's what it is. And we have students that are really good at all three of these. So in Mario Kart and Rocket League, we actually made it to the finals twice. We keep getting close, but not winning. Hopefully that'll happen soon. And Rocket League, we've had players that have been good for a while. I don't know what it is about Burlington, but we've had players that actually were professionals and were sponsored. I think maybe the second or third year that I was here, there was a student that was sponsored by Snickers, actually. So Snickers would pay him like a monthly salary to play Rocket League and, I guess, hawk their product. So why do we play it? It is recognized as a competitive sport. I know some people look at it a little bit askance and are like, okay, is it really sports? But if you talk to my team or visit them, they're like a real team. There's like a lot of camaraderie and teamwork. There's like strategy. Maybe the physical aspects aren't that much because you are pretty much sitting and playing the game, but there's like a lot of thought, and there's like a lot of strategy and things like that that they actually talk about and work through to succeed. And I think one way to look at the video game industry is that there are many different careers in it. So like if any of our students were to work for the NFL or in the NBA, doesn't mean that they actually are players. They may work in that industry. So you could have lawyers or public relations people that work in the stadium, whatever, right? So I think that's one way to look at it, is that it's an actual industry or business. And then, as I mentioned, many colleges offer esports scholarships, and Nolan, who's my assistant coach, played Rocket League in Winthrop, and he was an esports scholarship athlete. And then the other thing I've found is that many students that are interested in esports tend to be interested in other STEM careers. So even if they don't work in the career, they're probably interested in computer science or design and things like that. So they're learning those things so that they'll find other careers that, if it's not esports, their interest in video games and how they're made does lead to other opportunities in STEM. And I think that's it, and I apologize if I took up a lot of time, but I think the next set of slides, Shireen Tyrell is going to cover that later. Any questions about esports? Okay.
No, Leroy, thank you, and congratulations on making the top 4 in the state, and we'll continue to expect great things. And Dennis, thank you for your team for supporting that. And again, Mark, if you need anything to further these programs, please make sure that we're aware.
Yeah, I definitely have to say that Dennis has been great, and Shireen. Obviously, getting funding is important for all these things, and so without having that, a lot of this wouldn't be happening. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Shireen, we're going to do something first.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Well, are her slides part of this?
They
Then
are.
why don't you just finish if the slides are already up? Yeah? Yeah.
Up to you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And you could see that working with the students is really gratifying because they're just amazing. And I did want to add the 3 boys who were here Earlier, one's going to Olin, and the two brothers are going to UMass Lowell for biomedical engineering. And then also I wanted to mention in terms of getting girls involved, as you know, we're really cultivating a club, Girls in STEM. This year, all of the tech field trips that I had, it was 50% girls signed up. So it's nice just to see the whole culture of the school represented. We want to provide access to everybody and whatever place they are, so we're working on that. So I'm just going to highlight a little bit about what happened with our internship program and then talk about an exciting new funding opportunity for us. Through the Innovations Pathway Grant, we had 65 students completing the tech career internships. So all the drone projects were under that umbrella. And as part of that, we had students working with mentors and doing all sorts of projects, electronics, cybersecurity, websites, drones, AI. You want to go to the next slide? And I don't know if you've brought it up in here before, but this program was really recognized earlier this year, and Harris actually came back this year as one of the college interns to help the students, so it's nice to see things coming full circle. You can go to the next. In terms of mentors, speakers, and field trips, we're very fortunate to be supported by an amazing community here in Burlington and beyond. So we've had mentors from lots of different companies, lots of different fields. Thank you, Jeremy, as always. And what's amazing is that when the students are meeting with the mentors, I guess you could go to the next slide. When the students are meeting with the mentors, the meetings are short, they're fairly structured. Jeremy, they don't take up too much time, although sometimes too much if you're busy. But the students really come away from the meetings saying that they felt comfortable, they felt inspired, they gained confidence, they had a better sense of career options, they got resources and encouragement. And the long picture is a group of students with their mentors that came in for our final celebration day. You can see Alex with his mentor, Ellie, who's a mechanical engineer at Werfen nearby. We've got Jeremy. The bottom picture, there's students working with a college intern. Steve Morin's working with one of the drone kids, and Lori at the end, she's actually a Burlington parent. So we're very supported by the community, and it really makes an impact on the students to have access to people outside of Burlington. We'll go to the next slide. So for projects, I wanted to highlight just a couple. One is Excel certification. We had over 20 students actually get their certification in Excel, so that's a real-world skill. It's a good stepping stone. If they're going to school for business, they're going to have to take that anyways. And so this is Julia, and so she did that internship. We also had the VP of Data Platforms for State Street come and speak to students, and so in the middle is that picture. And then she had a mentor who had a very similar background that Julia had, and who's been actually a really important mentor and guide and coach for Julia. So it's just great to see how that program has worked for her. A lot of kids interested in data and AI, and which will lead to the next thing. But so we ran the summer program last year, and so many kids really gained tremendous skills. So these two boys, they've created their own company now. They have a video. I guess you could, I don't know if we want to take the time to play it or just.
Introducing Pivot AI. By uploading your resume and identifying your target positions, you will receive a personalized roadmap on exactly what skills you need to develop to land your dream role. Develop mastery by studying each learning resource and completing the success criteria. By the time you finish your roadmap, you will have the tools needed to land your dream job. Try out Pivot AI for free today.
I feel like they're ready to land their dream job now. But it's amazing. It's just amazing to see the kids creating things like this. And they really all talk about how much they enjoy collaborating with each other. So it's just wonderful to see them learning real world skills and really coming up with amazing products. And then I guess you could go to the next slide, Bob. And then the other thing, which is really part of the pathway, is since we ran that summer program, we had a lot of kids interested in data science. So 2 students actually started a data science initiative. We had guest speakers from Babson come. We had speakers from Microsoft come. And it's really gratifying to see the students really embracing AI and data and really kind of taking the lead and wanting to see us do more in the school, which we're doing. So next slide. So the big news is that we've been, as you know, working really hard on the internship and the summer programming, and then Dr. Conti has been great at really talking to other superintendents about what's possible. And so we had a meeting. He pulled together all the different superintendents for the Middlesex League. He got the Commissioner of Education, the Secretary of Career and Education together, and we went to Microsoft, and we really talked about what was possible and what we've done here in Burlington and what can happen if we really had additional funding and additional state support, really to take what we're doing here in Burlington and grow it, and then see, how much what we can do to really expand it. So we've had all these meetings with people in the state and with the Governor's AI Hub. So the Governor's AI Hub is funding quite a few things to really build this ecosystem around AI. And one of the pieces is workforce development. And that's being funded through their Innovation Institute, which is part of the Mass Tech Collaborative, et cetera, et cetera. But essentially, these are the people in the state that are really leading what's happening in terms of innovation. So we've had meeting after meeting, and really they've decided to invest in our Burlington program. And I have to say, it's thanks to all of your support for all of the things you funded, because we were able to show them all the things that we've done. And really, Dr. Conti really took the lead in providing the vision and bringing other schools to the table. So, so we're going to be getting a grant from the AI Hub to do a summer program for our school. It's open to other students as well. We're going to have definitely a full amount of slots for Burlington students, but we're going to be providing them with access to career information, lessons and doing AI and learning about AI, and learning how to do LinkedIn and all those kinds of things. And we're also going to be able to pay them a stipend as well. So it's really exciting, and I think we're the only school doing this, so it's amazing. So you can go to the next slide. We're having this summer the Data Science and AI Academy, and it's supported really by the Mass AI Hub. You can go to the next slide. So we'll be sending out a flyer. I wanted to talk about it with all of you, but we'll be putting this in Parent Square and doing plenty of publicity to make sure everyone hears about it. You can go to the next slide. So then, Mass Tech Collaborative also has money to fund cybersecurity education. They're looking at workforce development. Again, I think we are the only high school to have received a grant to provide an alternative way of students getting cybersecurity education. So we're also funding a summer program in cyber. We'll do it this year, and the funding's for this year and next year. And we're piloting a new AP course in cybersecurity. So very exciting. I feel like it's really great to see us joined with the state on so many different levels. And you could, and then you can go to the next slide. And then, again, going back to how Burlington is wonderful, both our parent and student community. So one of the students and his parents have connections in the life science field. Brought me over to Northeastern. The people at the Northeastern Biopharmaceutical Training Analysis Lab have decided to take on 6 students over the summer. So we're doing that, and I just want to acknowledge Chad for helping to make that happen, and his mom. So that's exciting. So we have 3 programs this summer. And I guess you could go to the last. Is there one more slide or no? Oh, maybe go back to the beginning. There was a slide right before the innovation pathway. So I just wanted to highlight, you could keep going, sorry. I reordered it on my deck and, oh, the one right there. So I just wanted to highlight that, you know, really thanks to the leadership with all of you, with the school's leadership, and the great teachers and community, that we have all of these different grants coming into the school that really make us a leader in technology education. And you can see all the logos on the bottom of all the different organizations that are involved in really connecting with our students, and our students are benefiting from all of this. So I'm just really thrilled to be here at the school and to be able to be a part of this.
Thank you very much. I know that any of this wouldn't be possible without you as well. So we
Thanks.
appreciate the hunting this down and creating all these pathways and flyers and managing all these summer programs. I know I went to the AI one last year, so make sure you send us all the
invite?
presentation dates so we can see if we can make those work.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
It's really fabulous to have so many opportunities for the students. And here we are in Massachusetts, the technology hub, and all of these opportunities, and to bring them into the high school and have them available for our students is really nice. And we really appreciate all your work to do it.
I mean, our school really stands out. I have to say, wherever I go, everyone is like really excited to work with us, and you know, it's the whole team. So.
No, I was just going to say, I remember 2018, you know, when Elizabeth was here and everything was kind of its infancy, and it's just blossomed so much since 2018. This all is so exciting, and I think we'll continue under our current leadership, and of course, everything you do. I mean, again, we wouldn't be here without your hard work.
Thanks.
Sure, I just want to say thank you, Roy. You and your team put on an amazing program every year. I'm excited to see the progress the students make, the engineering disciplines they get into, and project management. It's really a fantastic program that gives kids a lot of life skills, and I'm very happy to hear now that we're getting certifications out of that too, because I think that's just a great path to move towards. So thank you again for all your hard work and everything you guys do for all students here.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna split the public participation tonight. We'll do 15 minutes on general public participation, and then we do have the first reading of the survey policy further on the agenda, which I will use the remaining public comment period there. Reminder, again, comments are still limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any folks for general public participation? None. Anybody online? Oh, sir.
So it's not about the survey, right?
Correct.
Three minutes, I'm aware. Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to go through some of the numbers, and I just had some questions about it afterwards. I understand that this is not a Q&A. But looking at some of the numbers in terms of where we ranked versus how much we spend on average per teacher, I looked at, you know, all of the different tests that we take, the math, the ELA, and the science. And I ranked all of them. So what I did was I took the pay that we have and the score that we have, divided the two. So if, as an example, if we pay our teachers 50th place, but we score 50th, then we get a score of 1. And then I ranked all of them. So what happened was, for math, we came in 310 out of 350, which puts us in the bottom 11%. For ELA, we were 342, which puts us in the bottom 2.29%. And for science, that was 338th, out of 344, which puts us in the bottom 1.74% in terms of effectiveness, in terms of the dollars that we spend. The drone kids had said something really interesting, which is they learned how to use our money wisely. So what I'd like to do is challenge, I think this is the third time that I've come up and challenging, is attribution. Where are the dollars going? Why are they not impacting the scores as well as they should? And that's all the time that I need. Thanks.
Thank you. Any hands online?
So are we doing comments for the survey now or later?
Later.
What about the report?
You can make general public participation comments now, but if you want to make comments around the survey policy, that's further on the agenda.
Just a point of information, why are we changing the format in which we're doing this?
This is on the agenda.
Agree, but like, why are we changing how we're doing participation? Normally, we do public participation, close it out, and then we're done. I'm a little disappointed in the committee that we said we were going to say something about it. We didn't put an agenda item on here, and now here we are again, looking like, again, we're doing something different than we said we're going to do, and I don't appreciate it, and I don't think we should be doing it this way, but let's continue on.
Point of information.
On the agenda.
Mr. Brooks reached out to the chair and asked that this be on the agenda. Did that conversation happen? Did you reach out ahead of time and ask the chair
Yes, I
to
did.
put it on the agenda?
Public comment is limited to items that are not on the agenda is written on the agenda. So this is public comment for items that are not currently on the agenda. The survey policy is on the agenda.
I'm actually commenting on the report from Jeffrey Sankey. My name is Jenna Lloyd. I've been at every school committee meeting since the YRBS was put in front of children, waiting for an explanation. After reading through the review of the 2025 YRBS administrative report and recommendations from Jeffrey Sankey, I have a few questions and remarks I'd like to make. I was kind of shocked to read in line 40 of that report that only 2 members of the Wellness Committee participated in the January 27th meeting with the Director of Health and Physical Education and the Director of Mental Health. Though Sankey's report does not provide us with a member count of the Wellness Committee, he does provide a list of representatives from the district. So with that, one can assume there are 7 to 9 members. What is the approval policy of the Wellness Committee? According to line 39 of that same report, the Wellness Committee was sent a reminder on January 23rd to review the proposed survey questions prior to the January 27th meeting. Even though only 2 members participated, were all members required to approve of the YRBS, whether they were present or not? Line 41 of the report further states, no comments or proposed revisions were received from any Wellness Committee members regarding the draft questions, either before or at the meeting on January 27th. The YRBS survey has come under question since the 2023 survey was given. Parents spoke out then, and here we are in 2025 with even further invasive descriptions put in front of our kids. Something of this caliber should have been approved by all members. Continuing through the report, line 52 states, on March 7th, 2025, the Director of Health and Physical Education received an email from JSI attaching the final versions of the survey, along with documents highlighting which changes were made and providing reasoning for the choices we made. We did our best to accommodate data and weigh requests from other districts. The report states again in the conclusions portion, despite being notified of the definition changes in a document provided by JSI, neither Director of Health and Physical Education nor the Director of Mental Health noticed the revision. You can understand our frustration. 2023, there were issues with the survey. In 2025, the same issues were multiplied. It's either incompetence by not following up on the approval process or willful neglect in allowing this to happen anyway. We deserve a clear explanation as to why the Director of Health and Physical Education and the Director of Mental Health have not been held accountable for their failure to address the changes in the survey. These changes were not made without their knowledge. Responsibility cannot be shifted to JSI as was previously suggested. The Massachusetts Middlesex League consists of 10 neighboring towns, some of which have had a
Come on.
Adrian Simeone. Jenna was being really nice to you guys. There's no excuse why you did not say anything about this report being released. I shouldn't hear about it from someone else. That, hey, do you know the report's on the website? I'm like, no, I don't know. I didn't know about it. Why isn't there a statement? You know we're all upset. You know we've been waiting for this. It's like the hugest slap in the face to have to come up here and tell you that we know about it and you haven't said anything. You haven't apologized. You haven't held anybody accountable. This is inexcusable. You guys are supposed to provide transparency and accountability to this town and to us parents. It is a duty of you on this board. And here I am, having to tell you what your freaking job is. This is ridiculous. This thing came out last week. It was released on the 14th, posted on the 19th. And here I am on the 27th without a peep from anybody about this. I know the teachers union got word about it. They were told that no one's gonna get fired. You guys are committed to the survey and pushing forward SEL. We don't deserve an ounce of respect or an answer about any of this. Are you kidding me? You put these questions in front of our kids. The Wellness Committee knew, they had the resources, they had the information about what was changed. So we can't say that they didn't know, because they knew. There were 2 people that received that email with that document. And you're gonna tell me that nobody knew about these changes, okay? This is a serious issue. Putting a survey in front of children. I mean, when I read through all of those questions in that survey, my freaking mental health was in the gutter. I would have been depressed as a child reading questions about, have I attempted to commit suicide? Have I ever been bullied? Have I ever engaged in sexual content? This survey was a huge problem in 2023. So for the whole Wellness Committee to ignore the fact that parents complained in 2023 and they just passed that survey through like it was nothing, okay, we have a serious problem and we want answers. And I want to hear something from this committee and from the superintendent about what is going to change as a result of this.
Do you have any hands online? No? All set? All right. Do we have any? Is it too late to say something? No.
My name is Bob Young, town meeting member, Precinct 3, and I wasn't necessarily planning to say anything tonight, but I've been following this issue. I need to do more work on it. But with due respect to the people that just spoke, the chief executive officer of this multi-million-dollar corporation is Dr. Conti. And you can say whatever you want, but he is responsible for whatever happens in this district. One of our presidents said the buck stopped with him, and that's the case with any chief executive officer. And so he is ultimately responsible for whatever happens. The good, the bad, and maybe the ugly. I've sat up here with watching children talk about how wonderful the teachers are. We obviously saw a wonderful presentation tonight, but that doesn't take away from what's happened to these children. And I'm going to use a word, it's a disgrace. And there are different kinds of mistakes, but some you don't get to walk back. You don't get to walk back. So I hope when the members of this committee, the lawyer, whoever, that we pay for, says you can start commenting again, that you'll hold the person that's ultimately responsible. There could be others, but he is ultimately responsible. And as Ms. Monaco told me a long time ago, we basically have a few things we can do, and that's hire and fire the superintendent. Thank you for your time.
15 minutes up yet.
Not yet. Yep.
My name is William Manka. First of all, the independent investigation revealed many things about the incompetence of both the Wellness Committee and the investigator. To start, only 2 members of the Wellness Board reviewed the questions. This shows us 2 things, both that the school committee was lying when they said nobody read the questions, and that an insignificant number of people decided it was okay to ruin all the children of Burlington's innocence. 3 questions were asked of the Director of Health and Physical Education. The first was, would survey results from this question result in actionable items that the school could implement? They believed that asking 11-year-olds completely vile questions, like if they had used sex toys, would result in actionable items that the school could implement. The second question that was asked was, is the total number of survey questions appropriate? Somehow, they think that 98 questions are the appropriate number of questions to take away from doing anything academic. The last question that was asked was, are the questions age and developmentally appropriate? I hope that I don't even have to explain to you how terrible it is that the director said that these questions are appropriate for an 11-year-old. It's disgusting. Also, the investigation was plagued with grammatical and formatting errors, showing his true unprofessional nature. How much are we paying him for this? Also, as shown in previous meetings, everybody from school committee to the investigator downplays the real issues here. We need to make sure that this does not happen again, and downplaying it will only make it worse. What needs to happen to these problems is that we need to mandate higher attendance to the Wellness Committee meetings, given that only 2 people were present on the meeting where they decided to give the YRBS to us, making sure that the Wellness Committee members are trained to catch changes such as the one in the recent survey, improving opt-in systems so that children are not forced to take sexual surveys. At this point, Conti stepping down is not a recommendation. It is a requirement for the Burlington education system not to fail. Conti, you need to step down. We have all as a community seen your incompetence, and you are not fit for a position of power. Lastly, the misconceptions many people have about the survey are outright wrong. Some people make it seem as if it was just a minuscule slip-up that did not have any effect, making the point that kids talk. This is not the case for all kids, and the questions should not have been asked to kids anyway. Some of the questions encourage them to use tobacco products. In what world is that okay? They also fail to account for the bigger picture. If that slipped through the cracks, what else could? Members of the public, please help us make a change for mine and your future. Thank you.
Yeah. 12, 15, exactly. Perfect. All right. Subcommittee reports, anyone?
Subcommittee reports. Jeremy, do you have a subcommittee report? Because I'm curious about the field.
I think the field is on the agenda later.
Is it?
Yes. I don't have any subcommittee reports. We have Ways and Means on the phone.
I don't think they have anything.
No. No Ways and Means.
Okay. Other announcements?
Just, Madam Chair, we said there's the senior field night tonight, athletic banquet tomorrow at 5:30, and scholarship night Thursday, and obviously graduation on Sunday.
Very good. And we covered someone is attending all of those. Marion, you're good. You know who's going where? Okay. All right, then I guess we can move on to the survey policy. Bob has the copies. Can you just put them on the table?
Yeah, can you have copies?
Oh, yeah, we'll take some, and you can put them on the table for that.
Okay.
Audit.
Yeah.
I don't need a copy.
These different than what was in the packet.
I printed one already.
I don't need one. And you can hand them out.
So this is for discussion.
Yeah. Yep.
Same, it's in your packet.
So this is a first reading for discussion only. As you all may know, we have a no survey vote in place right now and no intended surveys to be given until at the very least the next school year. So this is for discussion. We can provide input now and via email to Dr. Conti at any time. And then we will review the next draft in June or in July.
So, Madam Chair, one of the things that came out of the report was that the Wellness Committee doesn't have a mechanism to disagree. So the investigator believes any future surveys, if you were to allow them, should come before the full school committee and should be discussed and voted and approved by the full school committee. So that was sort of one suggestion that he made. And then there was also suggestions about the administration of a survey if you all agree. So you could all say no YRBS surveys, and then obviously then how we administer the survey would be something moot, but the survey is a little bit broader than that. It talks about any sort of non-academic survey, and Mr. Sankey offered some suggestions. Darren Klein, your attorney, took some of those suggestions and crafted the survey language, the policy language that's in front of you, and the policy language that's in front of you, given some of the suggestions that you all mentioned over the past few meetings, is focused on an opt-in policy as opposed to an opt-out policy. So that's essentially the language that you have in front of you for a first read and for you all to discuss. So this is sort of a general non-academic survey. You can read the introduction, and then it talks about the district requiring parental permission. There needs to be an opt-in for students to participate in the survey. And again, even before all that happens, Mr. Sankey is saying that any survey has to come before the full committee for you all to vote on and approve. So that's kind of the mechanism here. And I think Darren, in your packet, also potentially suggested adding a sentence that says essentially surveys would need to come before the full committee is one of the things that Darren recommended. So again, as Ms. Massardo said, this is a first reading. You all can discuss it. We can make changes. We can get other suggestions, but this would require parents to opt their child into any type of survey of this nature, and it would require school committee to vote on and approve the survey even before we got to how we were going to administer the survey. So an opt-in diminishes the number of participants significantly, so that's something that it would certainly make lead time more, something that we'd have to ask folks to pay attention to, and we'd have to be diligent about that, as we would have to be with an opt-out as well. So feedback was we want more than one notification, but we would need to do that again for an opt-in. And then we would come back to you saying if we have 20%, 25% of students have opted in, it may not be worth the time to provide the survey if the sample size isn't going to be that large. So again, there's lots of conversations about this. Again, the nature of these surveys is for us to try to create programming to support kids so that they can all be successful, and then they all can feel seen, and they can all feel like they belong. So that's sort of the intention behind these surveys. But understanding if the policy needs to focus more on, again, a more documented opt-in, then this is the language that you all requested that Darren put together for you.
No, in reading this, I don't think it's clear that it's an opt-in. No, I think it's vague, more vague than it needs to be. And I also, if it is going to be an opt-in, I think we have to put language stating that we need, a certain amount of participation, because I know a lot of people disagree, but I do see value in these types of surveys, maybe not as specific. Look, I know a child who didn't commit suicide because of taking this survey. Saving one child's life, in my mind, is enough. So I want to find a compromise that works for everybody, whether it's opt-in or opt-out. Saving one life is worth it to me, okay?
We're going to open the public comment after, so you don't have to keep your hand in there.
So we are all coming from different perspectives. And like I said, I understand people being upset. We're deciding on a policy, whether it's opt-in or opt-out, making things clear so everybody understands what the process will be, and then we all come to an agreement. Whether we decide to do surveys in the future or not, that's something for us all to decide in the future. But if we're coming up with a policy, I want it to be very clear. I want the number of notifications to be very clear, that it's going to be more than one, that, it's not just on, one type of venue. It should be an email, it should be Parent Square, it should be, I don't know, phone call, because not everybody pays attention to just one way of being notified. People here made it very clear that they didn't see it in Parent Square. I know in my daughter's day, it was an email, and I had to look through not only my regular email of just the school stuff, it was all my parents' stuff, all my friends' stuff, all the people hitting me with everything. There was no Parent Square. So it was a higher probability of me missing it than you all with the Parent Square. Just saying, you have one way that you're being notified of everything in the school in Parent Square. So for me, like I said, it needs to be very clear. The language needs to be clear. It needs to be very well defined in terms of exactly how we're notifying and all the different ways we're notifying, and it should be more than one way.
Good.
So I want to say a couple of things. First, I want to say that whether or not you're a fan of Dr. Conti's, for the purposes of public speaking, he is Dr. Conti, not Conti. Please keep that in mind when you speak publicly. Second, as you all know, I've said many times that I was very upset with the survey. I was somewhat horrified with the language that was used in the survey. So to that extent, I fully agree with all of you. Moving on from the language, I keep hearing that there were lots of complaints in 2023. And I would like anyone who actually made a complaint in 2023 to send me a message, because I'm not aware of them.
I filed a complaint with the principals and the DSE.
You can speak after we discuss this. The next thing I'd like to say is that I think this committee has to decide whether or not surveys of this nature are valuable. And if they are valuable, we go in one direction, and if they are not valuable, we go in another direction. So we've seen this YRBS survey. It's a national survey, so there's some evidence that it's considered a worthwhile survey. We've seen presentations over and over again after it's been given about programs that are put in place to reduce behaviors like vaping, the suicide concerns. Personally, I think there is great value to the survey, but I would take out some of the questions that caused the problem this year. I think the definitions should not have been in there. And in fact, I think probably some of those questions just should not have been in there. Also, I think it should not be given until at least the 8th grade, maybe 9th. So in my opinion, it's a valuable survey. And because it's a valuable survey, it should be an opt-out, because any survey that is an opt-in is worthless. People don't seem to have time to read the emails and go to the trouble to opt out, so surely they're not going to opt in. So I think if there's value to the survey, and that's a question I pose to the whole committee, if it is a valuable survey, then it should be opt-out. As far as the Wellness Committee goes, I think that there needs to be some updates to how the Wellness Committee operates. Maybe it's time to shuffle some people around. Maybe we need some new people. I think maybe some of you even here were invited to be on the Wellness Committee, but weren't interested at some point. But anyway, I think that's a separate issue, but needs to be addressed. Please don't speak out. So my input is that a lot of this it reads well and it's good, but it's not clear. And I think this board has to make a decision, either opt in or opt out. And my own opinion is that if it's opt in, we might as well just do away with the survey. That's just how I see it.
Megan, you had a comment?
Yeah, thank you. So I like the idea of an opt-in model. I think, we may see a reduction in participation. We're likely to see one, but what type of a drop, we really don't know. I think it gives the community the opportunity to say, yes, we think that this is good, or no, we don't think that this is good. And we allow parents and families to decide whether or not their child takes it. I think that we also need to look at the administration process of the survey, the script reading. I think that's something that we're going to be, Dr. Conti is, I'm sure, working on with our middle school principals and high school as well. I think the intention of the survey, hearing Catherine's story, that's heartbreaking. It really is. I don't know how seriously students are taking this, though, and what the data really looks like and how supportive it is of the intentions. And I think once we figure out what level of community support we have for the survey, we can decide whether or not we want to, move forward with continuing the opt-out or just getting rid of it in general.
Do you have a comment? No?
Yeah, I have a couple points. So since we brought up the survey, I do have a bit of a problem with no opposition mechanism. If the person is in charge of health and wellness and they find something untenable and we're paying a consultant to provide that information, your opt-out mechanism is writing an email saying, remove this from the survey. So I would disagree with that and challenge that. Ms. Monaco, to your point, the very first email I got as a school committee member in 2023 was parents referencing this survey.
Could you find it and send it to us?
I absolutely can. So again, I think another thing in this policy needs to be addressed is accurate information or an excerpt of what's going to be provided in the survey. I know a lot of the parents that took issue with the survey initially did not take exception because they were pointed at the CDC survey, which is a much more benign version than the version given in the schools. So if we're going to provide information about what's being administered, we need to provide an excerpt of some kind. I know the reports stated that they should not provide the full report or something like that, but again, that was one of the problems and one of the things we stumbled with in this year's administration of it was a very benign sounding thing and it turned into something very different. Again, I think an opt-in policy is preferred because the opt-out policy didn't work, right? We know it didn't, so we got to try something different. And then I still think we haven't closed the loop on potential legal issues with mandatory reporting situations, trying to give anonymous surveys. So I think we need to explore that a little more deeply on what we're going to do there and how we're going to overcome those challenges, because I really think we open ourselves up to significant issues if we continue down this path. Thank you.
I also forgot to add one thing. My understanding too, and I want to make sure that, again, in future, if we give surveys in the future, my understanding is that this survey is kind of like the surveys, we say, take at work, If you answer a question one way, if you say yes, it takes you down this path. If you say no, it takes you down this path. So in particular, the questions about sexual content and some of that kind of thing, if you'd said nope, you wouldn't even see those questions. And not to say it's appropriate, the ones that we saw, but the point is that if you had said no, you wouldn't have even seen that set of questions. You would have gone on to the next thing. That's how the survey is supposed to work. I see someone nodding their head in the back, but that's the way a survey can work. And that was my understanding of how this survey was supposed to work. So I want to make sure that if we do surveys in the future, that is how they work, that it's not you see everything. It's if you answer one way, it takes you one path. You answer another way, it takes you another path.
I have just a couple comments. I agree that an opt-in policy is probably not worth the effort to administer. I would support a robust opt-out policy. And which includes, it's not in this current policy, but definitely multiple notices. I think for health, we did 4, something along those lines. I know we have a lot of contracts with Parent Square. I know we use Parent Square because of its accessibility and translatability, so that we can ensure every parent gets it. I don't know what the responsibility of the parent is listed in the handbook, but maybe we make it much more clear in any handbook updates that very important notices come via Parent Square. The last piece that we haven't really talked about, and maybe we could reference it in a policy, I defer to Darren, but it's recommended in the report as well, is the robust electronic consent management tool. I work in healthcare technology. They exist. The ability to electronically maintain consent, and then I imagine whatever survey administrator we would go with, it shouldn't be, oh, don't send it to that laptop, go sit in the library. They should never hit their laptop. And we should be able to maintain that. And I think there had been some requests to opt out of all surveys instead of single ones. So I'd like to see us go with an opt-out, but a very robust electronic consent management tool, maybe an opportunity for a parent to check, oh, did I opt out? Yes, I can go in there and this is all unchecked, et cetera. I have to believe that tool exists. So perhaps we get more in depth on that before we do a second reading. Yeah.
I agree with Melissa on the mechanism for opting out, the management tool. Relative to what Catherine said, this particular survey was supposed to be done the way that you said, but it wasn't. And in addition to that, the definitions were put outside of it, and they shouldn't have been. So there were a lot of things that went wrong with this survey. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but we may have a very long way to go on this policy, because it takes 2/3 of the full committee to pass a policy, which means that we have to have 4 votes in agreement to pass anything. And right now, it's clearly a 3-2 on opt-in and opt-out. So I think we've got to go, and in the meantime, the motion that I made at the April 8th meeting stays in place, which is that until we have a new policy, there will be no surveys. So I think we've got a long way to go before we finish this. And Jeremy, I would very much like to see that email.
Sent already.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Oh, sure.
And just, a lot was said. I just want to make sure I'm sort of reflecting what was said. So the opt-out, the opt-in language is too vague. That's what I got for feedback for Darren. And then you want to see the number of notifications also identified in the policy.
In other words, I don't want it to be just one
No,
notification.
I understand that, but you want it to be...
In different venues.
You want it to be written down with different...
Mediums.
Mediums, okay, sorry, different mediums. Thank you.
The grades again, would depend on the approval of this committee. So I think, again, the suggestion that the approval mechanism is always the committee can be written into the policy as well. And I think Darren suggested something in his notes to you as well, that the committee would be the school committee, sorry, would be the sort of final arbiter and vote on whether a survey moves forward and what grades it moves forward with. Mr. Brooks, I read the investigation maybe slightly differently in that a paper copy of the survey needs to be made available. What the company was refusing to share was sort of a digital copy ahead of time, but we should be able to present, and I think what was required is that we would present sort of the full survey, and I'm not sure why a digital copy was not something that they wanted to be shared, but we shouldn't just say what the survey is. The survey should be available.
I think what they didn't want is the survey to be sent to the parents, that the parents come in to see it, because I didn't want the survey to be seen by the students prior.
No.
I'm just saying that was suggested. I was just addressing the question that parents come in and see it in person, because if it goes out in an email, that can be shared with the students prior to their taking it, which defeats the point.
But I think
You as the parent are approving or disapproving it, seeing it the way you need to see it.
I think I was agreeing
that
with
was a
Mr. Brooks that
suggestion.
the full survey in all of its language should be available ahead of time.
Correct.
They just didn't want it emailed, or they
Correct.
didn't want the link available.
Right.
So I'm saying I think we can ask Darren to include that. And then the anonymous nature, Mr. Brooks, you wanted a legal...
Yeah, I just, again, with some of the questions that were asked about, abuse, sexual abuse, things like that are very much mandatory reporting situations, I feel like we are not in a good position to handle those because, again, if there is a mandatory reporting situation and it's an anonymous survey, how are we reporting it? And if we do report it, then the survey is not anonymous, so we're not being truthful in some other ways. So again, I think there's just some clarity needed on that and understanding, because again, maybe there's something I'm missing. I'm fully willing to acknowledge that, but like I said, I think there's still some challenges there.
Well, this is truly an anonymous survey through the chair. Excuse me, this is a truly anonymous survey. It's really meant to be a trend data, not an individual. We have other screenings. I've asked staff to put together those screenings for the committee, so we also have state required screenings for mental health that are not anonymous, so I think we try to have some of that work as well. So, but I'll ask Darren about our obligations with an anonymous mental health screening tool.
Yeah, and again, to Ms. Bond's point, if we can save that one person, right, and if that's the only medium they feel comfortable acknowledging that or reporting it, then we have a duty to follow through with it, and I think that can't be overlooked.
And then I still have the multiple notices and multiple mediums. So I will provide that feedback.
I mean, is there a way, like I said, I know when reading the report, again, it should be given in advance to parents to view, but they didn't want it, I forget how they worded it, posted publicly.
They didn't want it out there.
Out there,
Yeah.
right. So again, if there's a way to, so they don't physically have to come in, if there's a way for them to see it, maybe we need to find that. Again, I want to make sure people understand, I do want you to have access ahead of time. It's just trying to follow the suggestions so that we don't ruin the whole thing if we do them in the future.
I don't know why we can't just use the same survey that's used nationwide. If we're going to do a survey at all, why do we have to mess with it? I mean, I think what happened was the grant from Leahy Clinic and the company, I think they were trying to specialize it for the Middlesex community, and it went haywire. I mean, a lot of the questions on that survey are very worthwhile, but when you get into the specific questions that are now a problem, they just don't belong on there. They just don't. Why can't we use the national one if we use one?
I think that the questions were from the national one, the definitions were not. So it's a little bit more subtle than that, and I'm not sure why they did that. I think in reading the report, I think there were some communities that wanted things defined to maybe be a little bit, to attempt to be more inclusive, and like I said, those changes were after we had sort of an approval, and they were certainly missed, and those situations are being addressed, but they're not to be addressed, obviously, here or in public. So I think that trying to coordinate 10 different communities on a survey like this has proven to be
A bad idea.
or a challenge. So I think that was.
If we do give a survey, one of the options in this policy would be to have the school committee review it, which it really isn't the job of the school committee, but I think the school committee would be willing to do it. But if we were sitting here right now looking at one of these surveys, I'd want to take all those questions out.
Well, again, I think the lesson learned here is the context has to be larger than the survey itself. So the appropriateness of the questions is certainly something this committee would need approval of, and for us to move forward, that would make sense. But what I also think the conversation should be is we should say in the last 20 years, suicide rates for kids 10 to 14 have tripled. We're getting some data that there are kids who feel like they don't belong. How do we create programs to address those needs? It may not be every child, but we have to think about those things, which is a horrible thing. The questions are terribly uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable for me, and I think if you said they don't belong in grades 6 or 7 or 8, that would be fine with me. But I think the context of this survey is something that is important, and it would need to be that conversation. I'm not planning on doing any surveys, to be quite honest with you, of this nature, clearly with the vote that's currently existing, but if you create a mechanism for us to complete these policies, we're not going to move forward unless this committee approves that policy and we have a public conversation moving forward. I mean, to do anything otherwise would just be ridiculous. But the intention behind the staff asking these questions in the survey is because there's a need, and it may not be a need with every child, but there is a need, and that is something that we don't really talk about too much. But there are kids who are struggling.
So what do we do from here? Oh.
I just had another comment through the chair. I have an issue with JSI not wanting to post the survey, or us not posting the survey or hosting it online. I know other communities do it. The CDC version is online, so it just feels really wrong to me that they want to hide. It feels like they want to hide something, and it doesn't sit right with me that, you know, other communities are posting their surveys, the CDC version's online, so why can't their version be posted? It just feels...
Why don't we just use the CDC version?
The CDC version's online, then, and that's the one we use, and that's what we use. It's online. There's nothing, I
Let's
just
use
was,
the
again,
CDC
trying
version.
to
I think there's a
listen.
standing vote to not do surveys. There's also a standing vote to no longer work with JSI. So I think that's...
It's just a
I had no preference one way or the other. I was just stating what was in the research and what was suggested. Personally, if we wanted me to make a decision to make it public to everyone all the time, I don't care. I just was trying to repeat what I read.
If it was the CDC one, it would be public, right?
It's public already, right.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have to make that decision.
We wouldn't have to make that decision, exactly.
Through the chair, now, that wasn't directed at you, Catherine, or anyone.
No, I know.
It is just very odd to me that they are wanting to keep this so close to the vest.
And I wanted to clarify that I didn't have a preference. I was just repeating what was I read.
If we're going to continue to work on a policy, one of the things that we need to determine is at what grade level do we start it? And
I think Eric was mentioning that would be part of the vote to administer or not, right? So the policy says that everything would go through the school committee, and when it was hitting the school committee, we'd say this is approved for grades 8 through 12 or 9 through 12.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah, and I also think that it's regulatory that school districts have a wellness committee, so it's not something that we're doing by choice, and different communities have different memberships of the Wellness Committee. We do have community organizations, Youth and Family Services, we have Board of Health, but maybe we have some attendance requirements. Maybe we broaden the committee like some of the other communities where there are more members, and we ask Ms. Priest to swear people in. So we actually go the other way. We make it more formal as opposed to less formal. And we have some physicians as well on that committee, and then they would make a recommendation. All I'm saying is you don't necessarily need to get into every single question, but if they say this is important information, the Wellness Committee then would bring their recommendation back to this full committee to then have a vote moving forward. It would just be more of a deliberative process. So I do think we have to have a conversation about how you want the Wellness Committee to function, whether or not we have one, again, where we are required to have one. And they've done good work on lots of different topics, from the current allergy policy to nutritional standards. So it's a pretty broad, to transportation, sort of safe routes to school. So it's a very broad conversation, a committee that covers lots of different ground. This is only one part of it. So I think we should talk about how the committee wants that particular subcommittee to function. And I think we can look at some different models there as well.
Should we make that an agenda item?
I think so.
You can give us a recommendation?
Yeah. I think, well, I'll give you some different models, and you guys can decide sort of what would be useful to you.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that we need to change some things about the Wellness Committee. One thing especially is voting. I mean, they should need a quorum and take a vote on things that are important like this.
Who's the policy subcommittee?
It's Megan and
Okay.
me.
Do you two want to take this policy, the next draft, and hash out a draft number 2?
Sure, we'll let Darren do it.
Okay, all right, yeah, with Darren, or like review with Darren?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give one more comment.
Well,
I guess that what we can't do is lose sight of it's incumbent upon the district to validate these surveys or anything we're giving to the children is appropriate and well-meaning, right? I am fully in support of trying to identify at-risk youth. I still fail to make the connection on how toys and props help to do that. We can get over that. It's fine. But again, I think we cannot lose sight of the fact it is incumbent upon this district to validate those things. And we keep referencing JSI and the failures of them. We have to own this. It was a failure on us on some levels because this happened, it occurred, it transpired. And we need to stop shifting blame.
Good. Are we all set? So I have 15 more minutes for public comments. Yep, come on. Yep. We have till 8:56.
Hello. I've been quiet on this topic as I didn't opt my son and daughter out. I've talked with this amongst a lot of my friends in the surrounding communities that were affected by this survey. And they actually decided not to give this survey based on the debacle that happened in Burlington.
Right.
Also, Stoneham did put the survey as a link onto their school website, and parents were able to see it fully transparent and opt out if they wanted. I've stayed quiet in this as I did not opt my 8th grade son nor my 11th grade daughter out. I had no idea the scope of questions that would be asked to my kids, and frankly, it's making me reconsider sending my 1st grader to Marshall assignments, which is a tragedy, as I moved to Burlington for the schools. A letter was sent to parents, which I did read, and it was portrayed very differently than what was actually given. However, to hear our school committee, who represents us, contradict, not apologize, except for Jeremy, and pass the buck in regards to this frankly upsetting and condescending. The majority of parents want it to be an opt-in survey, and if you continue to insist on administering this survey at all, you all represent us. We elected you to be our voice for our children. I have no problem keeping up with Parent Square, and I too had the old system of emails. But it also seems the school cannot keep up with the opt-out system. Also, I'd like to mention the letter sent to parents, again, definitely downplayed the nature of these questions. I can read the letter if you'd like. I asked my son about this survey, and he said, yes, I took it. I asked my friend what some of the stuff was. When my daughter overheard me say that to him, she said, why weren't you mad about this when it was me? I said, I didn't see the survey then. No one had the nerve to take a picture of it and put it up on a Facebook page and have parents see it. I'm a very liberal and understanding person. However, reflecting on this, I'm very disappointed in how our school committee is handling this and continuing the slow-to-change environment that we are sadly becoming accustomed to. The new policy is not very clear to being an opt-in policy. It seems like it's an opt-out, reading this. Parents, at least in the meetings since this survey was administered, have made it abundantly clear there should not be any survey, but if it's necessary, it should be an opt-in. Parents are telling you what they want. Please listen.
Double dipping now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to reinforce that we absolutely want it to be opt-in only, 100% opt-in only. In the state of New Hampshire, they are working on passing a bill for the entire state to make this specific survey opt-in only. And I understand, like, I want to save children too, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to put a survey like this in order to save them from things. There's lots of ways that we can capture kids that need help and need resources. It doesn't mean that it needs to be through a survey. So there's lots of opportunities, and it's not just on a school to do these types of things. The school can also be working in conjunction with pediatric offices to say, hey, you know what? We've noticed, we've been keeping up with these kinds of things. Are you screening families for these kinds of issues? Are you talking to families about vaping and sexual behaviors and things like that? Because they are actually more in tune with the parents and their relationships with kids about keeping themselves healthy. So I appreciate the fact that the school committee is invested in the health and wellness of children, but there's more than one way to do this, and it's not necessarily through a survey. I think you know through the work that I do that there are many ways to educate people and engage people in protecting kids. It's not just on schools. A lot of it falls on parents. So I would absolutely like to see more information and resources, not just lunch and learns, but real resources, information sent home to parents. One of the things, too, about this survey, when we're talking about some of these kids that don't feel included in some of these marginalized groups that I'm told that I hate so much, one of the things that the survey did not ask kids is about adverse childhood experiences. So in a number of these marginalized communities where a lot of these kids say they don't feel like they belong, they don't feel safe, many of these kids come from homes where there's higher rates of mental illness, higher rates of incarceration within the family, higher rates of divorce, higher rates of substance abuse within the family. So it's not just the school environment that impacts the way these kids feel at school, it's also what's happening at home. So we're not necessarily getting a full sense of what is going on with these kids when you ask them, how do you feel? Do you feel that you were bullied? These are really kind of open-ended questions that then would open up the door to more questions to be asking. So if someone says they don't feel like they belong, that doesn't mean it's your job to all of a sudden try to create an environment where kids feel like they belong, because that's not life. Life isn't always feeling like you belong everywhere. It's also having a sense of resilience that you can be yourself even when everybody else doesn't agree with you. So I'm really not in support of all of this, because a lot of this leads down the path of social emotional learning. And so for anyone on the school committee that's not familiar, of course we have this CASEL model of social emotional learning. It became transformative social emotional learning in 2019 and 2020, where they turned it into a social justice model. So a lot of this is rooted in critical race theory, racial injustice, gender identity, being an ally, and telling kids that they need to be focused on social justice issues. So social emotional learning is key to helping kids grow, but this whole social emotional program has totally turned away from what the root of that was. So I would encourage you and all the parents listening at home to educate themselves on transformative social emotional learning, because that's really the driver behind a lot of this too.
Back
back again. I'll try to stay within my time because I know the gravel will be going. Ms. Monaco, I have been fighting this battle since my daughter was in the middle school in 6th grade. I have all the emails. I've sent all those emails to my attorney who has filed the PPRA on behalf of my daughter. Mr. Conti sat up here and is saying how important this survey is, how important the data is, and I've been doing a lot of public records requests, and I have emails that Mr. Conti sent out recruiting all the other districts in the Middlesex League to participate with JSI in this service. Says, greetings, I'm attaching the MIL 12 YRBS proposal for your consideration. The total cost will be $7,000 per district if we have 10 districts to participate. We have collaborated on this survey for the last 6 years, 3 surveys. They go more and more. Good morning, Eric. Thanks for organizing this. This is Stoneham. Stoneham's committed to participating. He felt it was so important to go out and recruit for JSI and recruit all these towns to participate in a service, but he didn't feel it's so important to hold his staff in his committees accountable, and he didn't feel it that important to review the data before he put it on my kid. I'm tired of you making the assumption that I don't parent. I'm actually a very good parent. I'm probably too involved as a parent. But you have no right to put my kid in a classroom and my kid says in the classroom, missing her math support, where she is struggling with, and saying that my mother does not have me take these things. Because like Adrian said, I actually have a very good in-tune pediatrician who does her whole youth risk assessment. And it's age appropriate. My daughter is comfortable because she has a good rapport with her pediatrician. I use the resources that I use and I vet this stuff and I make a choice as a parent to say, please don't put this content in front of my kids. But yet you did, and you broke our trust, and then you just want it to go away. So you keep pushing it out of the way, pushing it out of the way. The survey should be done, completely done. The relationship with JSI, severed. Completely inappropriate. We don't need this. How about making better bullying policies? How about putting more effort into getting better teachers? And how about doing a better job representing the children and the families in this community? All of them. Because you're telling me that I'm not inclusive and I'm mean and I'm not this because I don't want this content in front of my children. I have a right as a parent to say that. That's my right. We elected you. We had good faith. Well, actually, I didn't elect half of you. I'd like to see half of you gone. But other people have elected you. They trusted and believed that you were going to do the right thing, and you just keep avoiding accountability. There's no transparency. Mr. Conti's up here saying, oh, it's important to this. Let's do this and let's do this. No accountability for your wellness committee. No accountability for your mental health committee. And then you're not even making sure these people are present doing this stuff.
Thank you.
It's a disgrace.
Do I have somebody online? No. All right, one more, I think.
Second time I've been up here today. First of all, what you said, Ms. Bond.
You can address all comment. Public comment goes through the chair, and it's not a conversation.
Okay. Someone on the board said that they saved a life with the survey. And you're trying to tell me that clicking a checkbox on the survey actually made this person rethink all their mental health problems. It's either that or the survey isn't anonymous and they were provided help. So it's either you're a pathological liar or the whole district is lying. Also, I think that the whole problem that you guys are having with the opt-in is that there's not going to be enough participation. So we only care when parents are checking their parent square or doing any of that when there's not going to be enough participants in the weird service. If there are more than intended participants of these sexual surveys, it's fine. But when there's too little, that's where there's a problem with you. Eric, I do not.
That's out of order.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Don't address it, please.
I I am going to respond to you as far as saving a life. It's not about the question or being anonymous. This particular individual had parents who did not understand what was there that child was going through, could not talk to their parents, didn't have parents they felt they could share with, felt like there was no other avenue. And by taking this survey, whatever pushed them, there were maybe other surveys too, but this one survey was the thing that they finally felt comfortable going and talking to somebody outside of the family, because they didn't have family support to go get the help that they wanted. You can believe that or not. I know what the situation was. I'm sharing the information that this particular life was saved after the survey was taken, because they felt like they could approach somebody else to talk to after taking the survey, because they didn't have parents they could talk to. So I'm just saying that the survey triggered it, like it or not.
We're all done. You can come, sir.
So, and again, I'm not saying that we have to give this particular survey. I'm just saying that in this case, that survey is the one that saved this child's life.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you for sharing that, Catherine.
All right. It's not easy. I've known people who've committed suicide, so it's very personal to me to save people who are suicidal, no matter what the way is that the avenue.
One more, like 2
So.
minutes. All right, final speaker, sir.
I'm not going to say things that are too much different than what you've already heard a number of times, but I think it needs to be reiterated. You would ask the question about complaints about a 2023 survey. I can assure you, I didn't know I needed to build a dossier. I didn't know I needed to collect my evidence and document it and put it in a binder and everything else. But I sat with a gentleman named, I think it's Mr. Jacklin. He was the prior position that, he's no longer here. I sat with Carrie Purchase. We sat in the conference room at Marshall Simons. I sat in the conference from here. We discussed this stuff. We discussed it in detail. And I was assured, when someone looks you in the face and say, I understand, I hear you, I see you, and like all the platitudes that I got. And we talked about the opt-out. I said, I want a blanket opt-out for my kids forevermore. I don't want this stuff put in front of my children. We do a decent job of parenting our kids, and I was complimented on the behavior of my kids and the performance of my kids, and I appreciate the compliments, but you feel like you're getting a little pat on the head, you're getting ushered out the door, and then they just go right back to doing whatever was being done before. So the first time we brought this up at that first school committee meeting, Mrs. Monaco used the term horrified by the questions, and then the second meeting, it didn't seem like you were as passionate, maybe a little more tepid, and you said that your grandchild had seen the survey and it wasn't that big a deal. Now we're back to being horrified by it. I've been horrified by it since the jump. And it's not only this, but Adrian had mentioned the social and emotional learning thing. We talked about that in the conference from last year, this castle model. I had asked you before, go look at the architecture of it, go look at the underpinnings of it, look who created it. Find information about the people that are behind it. It's pretty scary, it's horrifying stuff. And so these surveys, I understand that you're passionate, and I hear what you said, but I also find it difficult that survey would be the thing that got, that was the impetus that saved this kid. I don't need my child to have questions like that put in front of them. And we sat down with Christine Concession last year about some stuff that was in front of my second grade daughter that I found wholly inappropriate. And then we have this discussion where it was necessary. And then all of a sudden I get an email from people in the administration saying after the fact, we reviewed it, and now that we see it, we agree that it was age inappropriate. We won't put it in front of your kid again. We'll respect your opt-out. So how many times does this have to happen? It's happened repeatedly. Like I mentioned the first meeting, I have 9 kids. So 3 of them are in college, the rest of them are in the school system. So we've been doing this for a while. And I have a kid all the way down to kindergarten. I don't want to do this again. So as far as the opt-out policy goes, it hasn't worked. It's been there before, and it hasn't worked, and it hasn't been respected. It hasn't been honored. There's people out here that have had their kids opted out. They went through the parent square. They did all the things they were supposed to do, and it didn't work. So I've sat down with the principal of the middle school at the beginning of every year and said, I put it in writing, had a conversation about it, and I trusted that people would say, okay, we're going to respect you as a parent. We're going to do what we said we were going to do. It hasn't happened. This opt-out thing doesn't work. You can try it again, and why would we trust that it's going to work? You're asking us to take a pretty big leap. I'm not willing to take it. And I don't think anybody else here is here. It cannot be an opt-out. It's got to be, it's got to go away, first of all, because someone made the point the first time that we spoke about this. Even if your kid successfully opted out, and these other kids are taking the survey, plenty of parents have said that that's what the kids are talking about. They're confused about this stuff. I had mentioned that some of these kids at 11 years old, they're still making lists for Santa Claus every year, but then they're going into school and being asked questions that are entirely inappropriate. I'm done.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, no, I don't speak to that.
I'd just like to comment on what you said. I was first meeting, second meeting, third meeting, fourth meeting, horrified, okay? I'm horrified that it was on there. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was horrified. I was surprised that it didn't bother my grandkids. 2 of them took it. Didn't bother them, didn't faze them. Bothered me, didn't bother them. The opt-out is what makes the survey work. If opt-in is the only thing acceptable, then we just should not have the survey at all. When you go and you speak to someone, say at the middle school or wherever, that doesn't mean that we're ever going to hear about it. So from my perspective, I never got a single complaint about that survey, not one.
Well, wait, let me ask you.
No.
No. No.
So when we forward our.
No.
No.
And you interpret
Public
what
comment is
happens with
over.
the data,
Thank you.
Like, where does the data go?
Order.
It's sold to
So,
Move on,
Jamie, please stop. Jamie, stop. So,
Well, can you
one of the
interpret when
things,
data sold and how is it used? Because you said it goes back to Leahy and you, but how do we know that this data is not sold? How do you know for a fact that this data that you interpret is not
Well, you
sold?
keep answering her. We're done. We're not.
I have to finish my statement. And my final statement is that at this point in time, the meeting at which you didn't think I was fully horrified, the second meeting on April 8th, I made the motion to not do the surveys until and unless we came up with acceptable policies. That motion was passed unanimously, and it's still in place. So I hope that that satisfies you to some extent.
All right, Dr. Chen?
Yes, mine will be really brief. It's just that I wanted to give you guys just a quick update on where we are with the multi-tier systems of support. As you know, that we worked in receiving a grant, and we had the American Institute of Research do an audit for us. That audit has been made public, and our administrators at the same time also received some professional development. So we're going to continue to work on ensuring that we have consistent processes K through 12 when it comes to the behavior components, the academic components, and also the attendance components of the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions. And both the PowerPoint and also the needs assessment has been posted on the website.
Any questions about it? No, I appreciate it. I continue with the, can you just talk about the professional development very briefly?
So what's going to happen is we have put 2 postings out there to make sure that we have folks who are going to be taking a look at the audit. And when I mean folks, staff members who have submitted in their names, like school counselors, like administrators who want to sit on this committee, teachers, for instance, school psychologists, and so forth. And we're going to be working with them to receive some training on the MTSS process. We're going to be working with Dr. Brittany Starrett of American Institute of Research and also Kateri Thunder. And we're going to be with the set goal in mind of creating some processes and policies that are very consistent K through 12, and then sharing that out with all parents. So there's just greater knowledge. That's all.
Okay. Any more questions about MTS? All right. That's your entire report?
Yes, because it's a first step, and I just wanted people to know that we've already done the audit, and that we had the presentation, and that it is on the website.
All right. Next is the good old field project.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to really ask Bob and Mr. Brooks to discuss this. I also want to make sure that I thank town meeting for funding. We called it Phase 2. It's really not a second phase. It's sort of needed in and of itself, but because we divided the project at the May 24 town meeting did follow through and support a resurfacing of the track and a resurfacing of the field, of the brush field. So we have the town willing to invest lots of money in that entire site, and I think the committee, there's people who put in a lot of volunteer work and put in a tremendous amount of time, and I think ultimately how the projects move forward, I think, Bob, you certainly are immersed in, and Mr. Brooks, you're immersed in as well. So, and my understanding is ultimately those decisions need to come back to this full committee, so I think we need to have the conversation in order to sort of maybe think about this now as one project again, or I don't know what you guys are going to recommend, so I just sort of want to hear about it. So,
Sorry, me.
I'm happy to jump in there if you want, whatever you want to do.
Perfect, yeah, through the chair. Well, first I want to say, of course, is that we do have a field meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock, right before the BHS community meeting. So we will share some more information with the committee, get some opinions, some feedback from the committee as well, too. I did update the slide.
Madam Chair, Bob, just to clarify, the field committee you're talking about is not inclusive of the project that was just supported. It was the project for the current grass field behind Brush Field?
Correct.
Or
no, let me restate that. So, Dr. Cundy, you are correct.
No,
so,
and I'm the one who's gets it mixed up all the time. So
we do not have a field subcommittee for the newly approved funding from town meeting for what we're calling Phase 2, or the current turf field and track at Marshall Simons. We have a subcommittee that you all assembled for the back grass field project that is still ongoing. That subcommittee is meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock. To continue our discussions. What will be discussed, again, is our standings right now with conservation, which I will tell you all what that is. At a meeting 2 meetings ago, I shared with this committee, and I'll put the slideshow up here. Slideshow. Just 1 second, I just want to make sure I can share this all. Share. Committee, share. And then slideshow. Come on, let's start. There we go. So, a couple dates here. Our notice of intent was submitted with the Conservation Department February 24th. We have a site visit with Conservation on March 31st. We got our wetland scientist on site April 9th, meeting with Conservation. We've attended Conservation meetings March 13th, April 16th, and May 8th. And what we originally proposed to the Conservation Department was a double field, which is shown right here. It has the nature seating, a walkway all the way around both fields, and then some accessible routing as well, too, up on the right-hand side where the arrows are.
Bob, where's the existing field?
So the existing field is right here on the below side.
So your back is to the parking lot?
So this is the school right here. This is the hill that comes down to the field. This is Varsity Field. Locust Street is here. Okay. Wind Street is right where these letters are. Okay. So the 2 arrows in the back right-hand corner, this is the back property, the furthest away from Wind Street, but the top right-hand side. Again, there's some subjective comments, but regardless of what has been deemed right now by the wetland scientists and agreed upon by Conservation is that this corner right here is now wet. The reason I say now is because it was not previously, but it is now. Based on that determination alone, we have some next steps, and the next steps are to continue with this path, with this presentation, or alter this path and potentially a new presentation. What's on the left-hand side is not deemed wetlands, but there is a natural riverfront right here, and it's denoted by this line. This is local authority, so local control, local decision. So they do have some concerns on the top left, because as you'll see, the angle of this riverfront gets close. So you have a 20-foot buffer zone, a 50-foot buffer zone, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this one deemed wetlands, this corner. This one noted that we have concerns about it, right? When you put the two of them together, and again discussed at a conservation meeting, this is a no as it currently stands, meaning that with this deemed wetlands and this presentation, there is not a path for us to move forward with conservation in Burlington, right? We would need to go outside of conservation, and we would need to look at the Army Corps of Engineers as an avenue for them to investigate this corner and possible for them to make a different determination. Conservation has let us know that the Army Corps of Engineers does not supersede their authority, right? So they may give a different recommendation, and they may side with us. They may or may not give a different recommendation. So that's just something that the subcommittee and you all need to consider. The left-hand side is still in question. At our last field meeting, we showed another picture. This is not an endorsement for it. This is something that was showed to the committee, so you all are privy to this information, so is the public. Taking out the two corners presents us with a different shaped field, which is not two full-size lacrosse, soccer, field hockey fields anymore. You have one full-size field hockey, lacrosse, soccer field, and then one multi-purpose something, right? Since then, since the meeting, we've had some feedback, and we have some different options, right? So the different options basically include no longer a triangle, but trying to maximize those buffer zones and staying away from them. Just one more picture, again, is something, similar to this. Now, these are not the final designs. These are something that do need to be discussed with the committee. We don't know if the committee agrees or doesn't agree with these. These have not been presented to you all, and we don't know what our next steps are officially. Dr. Conti mentioned something else. Do we look at this as one project? Possibly. And the reason I say possibly is that now that we have the funding to re-turf and resurface the track in the front field, brush field, we do need to bring an engineer on board. We do need to get the specs up for bid, so we do have a little bit of time. But at some point, if we were to make a decision on the field, we could have that conversation. If we don't make a decision on that field, we can continue on the path with resurfacing the current field until that decision is made. So there is some overlap and there is some time, but we still need a little bit more further investigation from the committee to see what our next steps are. Oh, and let me just add one more thing, please. As these are concept pictures, and I'm going to stress that, which I stressed to the subcommittee, these are concept pictures. So the striping is not finalized if a solution was chosen. But what does happen is, because this area was deemed wetlands, you can see that right here on the bottom in all of the pictures, we've rerouted the accessible ramp. So now the accessible ramp is more in the center as opposed to using the existing walkway that was already on the property. You'll see that the nature seatings, again, conceptually have been shifted a little bit to get them further away from the wetlands, the wetland areas. So the intent and the focus of these drawings still maintains multi-purpose fields, accessible walkways, lighting, seating, et cetera. So again, we'll continue this conversation. Just wanted to update you all. And again, if Mr. Brooks wants to chime in with anything, please.
No, I mean, I think you covered most of it. I'd didn't realize we were going to show these tonight, but that's all right. Again, based on last meeting's sentiment, the baseball field was a complete no-go. That would never get support to get out of committee. We've not presented this yet, so I don't know how this is will land. The prevailing sentiment was that they wanted to go to the Corps of Engineers, is my read on what the committee's saying. Again, I think we need to look at cost for that, schedule impacts, and understand that a little more clearly before we can move forward with that. And then again, like Mr. Cuda said, even if we get buy-in from Army Corps of Engineers, it may not change conservation's stance on it. So again, all those things have to be weighed, and we have to look at that a little more carefully and bring you guys back a lot better recommendation on what we want to go, which way direction we want to go, why we're going to do it, and what the impacts are to schedule and budget. I think we owe you guys all that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, I just wanted to clarify the sort of the pinkish line on the right side of the picture that we're looking at.
Sorry. Yeah, either one. Yes, sorry, if you don't mind if I'll stand up for a second. So this pink line right here is deemed wetlands currently through conservation.
Is that growing?
It's growing from previous years. I can't tell you if it's growing overnight.
Because it looks like a lot larger of an area than just the back corner, but I'm saying it.
I would agree, and I guess the argument I would have and why I've, am somewhat in support of going to the Corps of Engineers is that wetland area will continue to grow if the pipe is not remediated. If the pipe's not remediated, that wetland area is going to continue to grow, and then we'll lose use of the top half of that field when it becomes deemed wetlands. So I believe there is a reason to investigate further. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think we need to chew on it a little bit more to get there.
And I just have one follow-up. Is that okay? It really shouldn't be, so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was at the meeting with, I don't need to confirm, but I think the softball field model did get a negative reaction, and I did speak with Sean Hart, and that's honestly, if he even had his druthers, that's not where he would want a softball field placed, because I just said it's school property. We do need a softball field upgrade, and I think that's next on our priority list. I think we have to work with Park and Rec to figure out sort of where it would go and how we could work together to do that. So it is a priority for us. But I even said, if you could have like any softball field you want, would you want it there? And he really needs 2 softball fields on the same facility so the varsity and JV can play and not have the kids so spread out. So again, I know that was something that the committee responded to, and I just wanted to sort of ask. So we do have a need. I don't want to diminish the need, and I think it would be next, but not something that he said he would choose, even if that were to be presented to him.
May I ask, you want to go first? No, you go first. I'll go.
So I have a couple questions about the Army Corps of Engineers. So the funding that we have through town meeting is for this project that we see in front of us. That money can or cannot be used to go to the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm seeing a head shake, so that's a no. So how, then we would have to go back to town meeting and ask for this money to then try to work against the Conservation Commission. That's the...
I think it would depend how big the bread box is. Sorry, if it's a $5,000 process, then we can probably find it. If it's, again, I have absolutely no idea and have not done that in my career, so I'd have to ask.
That was something I had asked Nezra when I chaired the last meeting, was how much is this going to cost? And he had was not able to give me a response, or didn't feel comfortable giving me a response to how much this would cost. And how long it would take, too. It would take about a year, right? So the field, the cost of going through and waiting, it's going to drive up the cost of the field, which I know is something that town meeting was really against when the project did go through. I also just wanted to compliment the committee on all the work that has gone on. Everyone worked really hard and collaborated really nicely to put this together. It is a shame that we can't build this beautiful field, but I think also we have to find a compromise. I don't know that battling with conservation is going to serve us in the long run. That's just a gut feeling I have.
I believe like the characterization that we're pitting two committees against each other isn't accurate. We need to understand our full operating environment and get a good read on where things are. Obviously, they've made their decision, but there is other avenues to explore, and I kind of believe we should do that. So I don't feel like we're pitting each other against one another. It's getting more information and getting clarity on what our path forward is to understand what is in the realm of possible.
Well, I was going to ask the same thing about the funding, but there were two different slides you put up there. So one clearly showed the softball field. The other one was just a square. Is the square just, what is that?
If I may, so based on the feedback of our last subcommittee, we showed the diamond shape that did have the baseball, softball field on it. The comments from that were not positive and asked for something more square or rectangle. The two...
For what use? I mean, what is that? What could you use that field for?
Feedback from the committee, right? So what's presented is, again, a conceptual square/rectangle, trying to maximize the space outside of the buffer zones.
What would it be used for specifically?
A field and a half, practice areas. It could be a U10 area. It can't be a full-size field, and even in the baseball concept, two games going on simultaneously wouldn't be an option. So feedback from the committee was that if a full-size game could be happening and then warm-ups, practice, et cetera, could be happening, that was beneficial. So that's what was created to show the committee that here is some feedback and here are some options.
So then, again, we talk about needing two softball fields, and, let's say we don't go along with this because, again, the softball field is, it's that school property, an appropriate place to put a field because it's a school event. And now we're trying to go outside of school property and work with another group and say, we need these two fields, which we haven't gotten and haven't been updated, and it's not on their priority list. There's no guarantee it's on their priority list. It could be 5 or 10 years down the road on Rec's priority list. What's the promise that we're going to get both of those fields in the same time frame, that we could get at least one good field going and they renovate the other, or that we get a guarantee that we're going to get two fields next to each other, which is what the preference is? Where is that all coming from? I mean, what's the promise and what's the timing, and are they going to guarantee two fields next to each other?
So we do have the two at Marvin, and I believe that's the very top. I spoke to someone last year. It's the very top of the rec priority list.
It is
and
bubbled
they
up to the
exist. That's
top.
where
I thought their list wasn't finalized. I've never seen their finalized list.
Our list is not coalesced with theirs. That was what Ways and Means had asked, is that the schools and recreation come up with a joint list that prioritizes efforts. That's what we still need to codify.
And through the chair, we have a meeting in June where Ways and Means, Park and Rec, and a bunch of departments are all getting together to, I think, to look at exactly what Mr. Brooks had said, sort of what the priority lists are. But I do think, is that Marvin? I get the name.
Yeah, Marvin and Rotary.
Marvin would be something that people have paid attention to, and no one can control the weather, but some of our fields, because they may not drain particularly well, and if we have a wet, cold spring, some of our teams aren't even getting on the fields until late. So I do think it's a need, and but what that need is for the whole community, we have to just discuss. So, and I'm not good at knowing what fields can be used, like can a Little League field be used for softball? Like, I don't know any of that stuff, so have to rely on people to do that. But at some point, we do need to address that.
Sure. Is Rec planning on doing a grass softball field or a turf softball field? Like, what's their plan for Marvin? Do you have any idea?
They haven't made that They haven't made that determination yet. Okay. The field's master plan identified the problem areas to be fixed and the priority they need to be fixed in. Yeah, the actual design elements have not been decided upon. There is a bit of a wrinkle in the House. There is a bill specifying very certain things about turf fields, how they be used, how they can be used, what fill materials will be available, and then what carpet materials can be used, if at all. So there is a lot of that moving through the State House right now, which will impact a lot of the projects we have in the hopper for the town.
Through the chair, I remember reading the report from Nezra and them saying that this is a priority area for a softball or baseball field, because that those facilities don't exist in this part of town.
Right. Can I just comment, just to add to the conversation? So I guess to be more clear and probably more fair to recreation is that the schools and you all supported a athletic field study that focused only on athletic fields. Originally, that the schools more had a priority with, and then included some other ones, other athletic fields in town, whereas the recreation's master plan does not only encompass fields. So I have talked with Mr. Egan, of course, and Marvin and Rotary are a priority for us. Up next on our list, it's up high on recreation's list as well too. They're just juggling a little bit of facilities, right, as opposed to just fields, right? Our list is focused just on fields. Theirs is focused on full properties, et cetera. So it's high, but it may not exactly be there next. Right? And again, I think we've all said, both committees or both groups, that these are living documents. So we do have some flexibility to kind of adjust those as to when they were presented. Again, the schools one is on year 3 right now, right? So we've already been able to at least pursue our first 3 priorities. Again, thanks to town meeting, thanks to you all. The next 7 priorities. Again, is something that we'll have to work with the town and town meeting, et cetera, to see where those fit.
Yep, Dr. Conte.
Just, Bob or Mr. Brooks, again, in looking at this picture with the arrows, the wetland area looks smaller than the red dash. Is it possible that on the left side of the picture, you said that's a river side?
Correct, up there, yeah.
Is that stable too, or is that, is that shifting?
That stays where it is. There's no, the federal guidelines, you can build up to 1 inch away from it, right? It is a town bylaw.
Yeah.
Again, it would require variance, as I understand it.
Just
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Approval from conservation.
Again, it does put us in a bit of a tough position. If the wetland issue is dealt with, then we still have to contend with the riverfront issue, right?
But I'm not asking the question well. Is riverfront relatively stable, or?
Yeah, that doesn't change. So the buffer zone is the buffer zone unless they redelineate where the river runs, which I don't.
This is sorry, through the chair, this is a local rule. It's a local riverfront that it's deemed by the Conservation Department, not state, not federal level. It's a water system that is depressed about 10 or 12 feet below the grade of the field. It does get wet, then it dries up, and then the season comes again and it gets wet and it dries up. So it's regulated differently than the wetlands. But it is kind of contained to an area and has a funnel type system that creates a path, whereas this particular wetland did not have that funnel type system and did not contain it the same.
Are we fixing the pipe?
So that is part of the quandary, is that because it has wetland properties or is deemed wetlands, making repairs in that area becomes problematic, because now you're disturbing wetlands, and by right you can only disturb 5,000 feet of wetland or displace it. Again, that's why there is a bit of a challenge here, why it's not as clear to just cut off the end and call it a day.
So short answer is no, we cannot go in there and touch the pipe.
It's protected.
Okay, can I just ask, you asking about this pipe? So we're concerned if we leave the pipe leaking, it'll just make the wetlands grow, but we can't fix it? So
we could clarify that with conservation.
We can, and again, that's where
that's part of what we want the Army Corps of Engineers to talk about. Okay.
And again, through the chair, hopefully I did not say that we cannot fix the pipe.
No,
right? What I'm saying is that it's a different process than if the pipe was not in a wetland.
So we're not fixing it as we speak?
At present, no. And there's underground utilities there too that, again, could potentially need repair at some point, so definitely is some determination that needs to be addressed, and that's why I'm just, really not comfortable rushing to, all right, cut off the ends, make it a square, because I really want to understand before I come back to the committee and make a solid recommendation, so we don't, kind of get caught, oh, we went with this, and then a couple of years later, this becomes unusable, right?
Yep.
Or in 10 years or something.
Okay, so this, I'm really not all that into fields, but I know we created some waves a year ago when we got this money because it hadn't been approved by Ways and Means, and we had some unhappy people. And I think it all worked the way it worked because we were kind of in a hurry to get going, and we wanted to get a field going. So I'm a little confused as to why we're not moving more quickly. Second, this is a school committee decision, right? Regardless of what the field committee says. It's school property, so it's a school committee decision.
Correct. We could essentially usurp the committee and nullify their work and make a vote right now if we'd like to do that.
Right, okay. So I don't know how many of you were involved, but I remember one time when one member of the planning board got really upset with the building inspector and wanted to sue the building inspector so that the town would have the planning board suing the building inspector, and therefore the town will be paying the attorney's fees for both the planning board and the building inspector. And it was ridiculous. Of course, it didn't happen because town meeting said no. I kind of feel like this Army Corps of Engineers thing is the same. The Conservation Commission has said that they have the final say, and I think we should work with them, and whatever their final say is, I don't think we need to involve anyone else and appropriate more money and go back to town meeting for permission. I think it'll take forever, and I don't think we'll get the permission or the money. And even if we did, the Conservation Commission could still say, I don't care what the Army Corps of Engineers says, we're not doing that in Burlington. So that's, to me, that's ridiculous to do that. As far as the fields go, I remember when it was presented at town meeting, one of the options was a softball field that was brought to that meeting that night, one of the diagrams. So I'm a little confused as to, and also I went down there at the time of that town meeting vote, I went down there and walked the field. And I don't understand how you could get those two big fields in the space.
Because the GIS survey that was existing indicated that was the buildable space. Our engineer discovered the broken pipe, reported it, which caused the issue. So through our own due diligence and our own following of process, we uncovered something, we were not covering it up, and we reported it as our duty was to do, and that's then how this became an issue. Again, we didn't get the recommendation we wanted, the notice of intent isn't approved, but again, I think we're not pitting boards against each other, and I want to make that very clear that we're not doing that. We need clarity of information to understand the decision we're making, because if this wetland continues to grow, we will lose use of that other part of the field. And I don't want to spend $2 to $3 to $5 million, whatever the reduction in cost would be by moving that in, to then have something be unusable in a couple of years if this continues to grow. Because if that pipe becomes unmitigated, the leakage will come worse, the breakage will become worse, then the flooding will become worse, which will enlarge that wetland area.
So what I've heard, and I don't know how accurate it is or what you can do about it, but what I've heard is that Conservation does not necessarily agree that this has anything at all to do with a broken pipe. And I think that the field committee needs to work with Conservation to figure that out, because I don't think they're looking at it and saying, oh, if we let them fix the pipe, we won't have a problem with wetlands growing. I don't think that is understood and agreed upon between the two groups. So when I look at this, I think, I don't know, obviously we can't do that. We can't do two lacrosse fields. It's not going to happen unless lightning strikes the Conservation Commission, they change their minds. I don't know where the 2 lacrosse fields came from in the first place, because I thought that it was a different configuration.
2 multi-use fields. It's not just lacrosse fields. There are lacrosse, soccer field, hockey fields. So they're multi-use fields. They'll be striped in 3 different field configurations.
And they can be used.
Yep, and the reason it was chose to do this orientation is because it maximized space. So it allowed the most amount of practices and the most amount of teams to get on the field at any one time. And that's why, again, one of the very first things we did in the committee was establish our minimum viable product. Here's the 5 must-haves we will do is increase space, get the accessibility, add accessible parking, and add the seating and lighting.
But would high school lacrosse use that field?
They can.
Yeah.
But would they?
Yes. Well, they could if they wanted to.
But would they want to, or do they already have a field here?
It's going to be a schedule, right? So if you want varsity and junior varsity to both practice at the same time when school gets out at 3:30,
Yeah, all right.
then
The
they would
point-
split, so yes.
The point I'm trying to make is this is a school. And the fact that it is a school, it's not just a rec field, it's a school field. And I think that that point has been missed to some
Sounds
extent.
like Sean weighed in pretty heavily, though, right?
He may have, I don't know. But all I'm saying is it's a school field. And I think we should be paying attention to that. So I guess to wrap up my comments is, if we were to take a vote on going to the Army Corps of Engineers, my vote would be no. I would like to see the field committee come to an agreement on what they can do and want to do and bring it forward and get it done, because we've had the money for over a year and we're not there yet, and I would like to see it happen.
I would as well.
And I don't think that anything you or that committee or we do is going to change the fact that that plan won't work. It's just my input.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
And it just, again, I've been understanding things, and like I said, the Army Corps of Engineers, having them come in, I kind of agree. I don't think that's a good idea in terms of the relationship we have with conservation. But what my question is that, can we go to conservation and say, I mean, we keep talking about this pipe, we keep talking about trying to want to repair it and determine if this is
That's where the
growing the situation. So why can't we go to them and talk to them about that and say, what is this, I mean, what's the step we have to take?
That's what we've done for the last 4 meetings, where the last meeting was basically the notice of intent will not be improved as presented, so we have to come back and present something else.
No, I get that. I'm saying I want to talk about the pipe.
And we've talked about the pipe ad nauseum, and their position is the pipe is not, while it may have caused it, has the properties, and that's it.
How do we have them say, how can we go to them and say, can we work on this pipe, repair the pipe, cut off the pipe, whatever's we have to do?
We've asked that specific question, and we don't have clarity on it.
And I think through the chair, we don't have enough space to replicate all of that wetland area. We need how many square? 5?
We can replicate by right 5,000 square feet.
Is there
That red area is 40,000, 42,000, right, Bob? Somewhere in the neighborhood there.
So you have to replicate the wetlands to do a repair. You can't just do the repair and leave that wetland as it is. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, it's a 5,000 cap.
Why would you have to move it or replicate it to do a repair if you're just going to let that wetland stay wetland? Right? That's the question I'm asking.
Correct, and you wouldn't have to if you're going to let it be wetlands.
Right.
And
You're going to keep it wetland, I think, you know.
And again, the concern is that the wetland will grow. And
Right. So
conservation, I
no
don't know
matter
if they
what we
necessarily
do,
share
we're not
that.
going to be able to do the double
You are not,
field. But
exactly.
why not repair the pipe anyway? Find a way to do it so it doesn't grow more. So whatever we put there isn't going to be
I agree with you, and that's
encroached.
what we need to get clarity on.
Thank you.
Eric?
That to me seems like the first thing you got to deal with.
Brush field is the front. Oh, no, it's not. So shifting to the front.
Brush.
Is that procurement going to be, we need an engineer, and can that project move forward with come separate from the conversations in the back, and there might be some economies of scale, I understand that, but does the wetlands delineation impact the Brushfield project, and we're going to need an engineer, and because the engineer we currently have has a lot of familiarity with that site, is the timeline on that project going to be impacted, or can it be separate from a procurement perspective? And then do you have an idea in your head when, how that's going to move, the timing of that? Because I think you had also talked about not wanting both fields offline potentially at the same time. So
I think I'll need to work with Ms. Kosh on this, but my opinion is I believe we should bring an engineer firm on, get the specs ready, which is going to take a little bit of time, not months, but some time. As we progress or not progress with this, I think we can make a decision if we want to put it out to bid as one project or two projects. I don't think we should stop everything. I think we should still continue until, we have a plan, and if we get to a point that we don't have both, then we can focus on this one while we continue to make a determination on the backfield. That's just my opinion.
I guess my point is that a 4-month process before we can go to bid roughly for the Brushfield piece, or?
I don't think it's 4 months. I think it's less than that. I think we have some specs based off the high school, based off Nezra, who's already put together some design concepts already for the middle school. Has a lot of this data already. If it were to be them, I think that we would have a leap start. If it were not to be them, we may have to obviously backtrack a little bit and do some more research, but I think Brushfield is more typical and more standard. It's your standard field with a standard track, so most companies, most engineering firms should be able to handle that one relatively quickly. The back one has some more nuances to it, just because of the double field, the shape, the walkways, the et cetera. Not impossible, just a little less typical than a single field.
Right, and then we were also, promised is too strong a word, but we also, I think, got a commitment from Ways and Means for some design money for a bathroom facility, and I think that would be impacted by the Brushfield work, and then ultimately decisions that are made on the back. So again, this is a part of a school property that, again, has a significant amount of funding already committed, and I just think it's exciting, and I think it should be a positive conversation moving forward. And it sounds like we have at least a couple months lead time on the Brushfield side, and so that would be we have a couple months to work with, I guess, is what I would say. So to move forward, and I think for some of you at that meeting, was that a reserve fund transfer request, or what was the mechanism for doing that, or was that a future town meeting for the
bathrooms?
For the bathrooms?
Just was either one. It was either one.
It was either one?
Yeah, they didn't care which way we went with that.
All right.
All right, going to move on. Fox Hill School Building Committee. So for both school building committees, Paul Sagarino is no longer the town administrator of Burlington, so I just want to procedurally remove him from both of our subcommittees. John Denizio is also already on both committees, and the consultants have confirmed that he can fulfill all the required town accountant and town administrator roles on both committees. So just for the sake of procedure, so we can submit to the MSBA, do you have a motion to remove Paul Sagarino from the Fox Hill School Building Committee?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, chair votes aye, 5-0.
Move we remove Paul from the high school building committee also.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. Thank you very much. We did just have a Fox Hill School Building Committee meeting. The designs are, I keep seeing more and more visuals, so it's very exciting. We got the tile and the linoleum samples for the interior, so I think the jury is still out on some of the colors but Mr. Rosenblatt is sitting on all of the sample materials, so we will be meeting again on that. Sorry, did you have a question? Oh. I think that's it for Fox Hill. We're still, July will be the next cost. Like, next time we'll validate that we are still on budget. I had one more thing. We're gonna start qualifying construction companies to be able to bid in the winter timeframe. So we're gonna work on that. Did you have a comment on Fox Hill? No? Good.
Yeah, I wanted to ask for a presentation on the food service.
Oh, wait, I want to talk about high school first.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the next, the community forum for the high school building project is this Thursday, the 29th, between 7 and 8 p.m. It was going to be 100% remote, but someone had requested that we be in person as well, so we do have the school committee room.
When is it?
Thursday night.
Well, it's supposed to be 100% virtual.
This is a viewing
We're
room,
having a
right?
couple people show up here for, if someone wants to show up in person, because
What's the date?
a person requested this Thursday.
29th.
the
29th.
29th.
Yes. So we can be virtual, and Terry will be here.
I was
We all don't have to be
advertising it
here.
as this would be just a viewing location for folks who didn't have the technology to view at home.
Right.
We will not be here.
Terry will.
Terry will, okay, just Terry.
Terry will
Yeah,
physically be here.
But the presentation will be virtual.
The rest of us don't have to be.
Yeah.
If you want to be, you can.
Yeah.
But it's, the intent is for it to be a virtual, 100% virtual. So that's what I wanted to bring up. And then I was going to bring up an old business and new business.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just have
Something.
facilities and transportation.
Yep.
Okay. Everyone good on BHS?
That's done for BHS, yes.
Yeah, okay. Facilities and transportation.
Facilities, I will say that most buildings we have turned on the air conditioning, or at least we've had startup on the air conditionings. So again, most buildings will start to feel that it's cooler. In certain areas may take a little bit longer as we go through, especially on like a building like the high school where it has 11 penthouses. Just takes a little longer to start it up here. Transportation updates, nothing new, no new updates. Again, I did attend a meeting that I mentioned to you all previously through Beacon Connect, and there are some promises coming down with upgrades and more features of the app, but those are not released yet. So once they are, again, we will share, or I will share with this committee, but nothing new. I said nothing new, sorry. My team started looking at the survey. I know, sensitive word, apologies, but we do plan to send one out to the families, again, for next year to figure out, or at least get an idea of who will or will not ride the buses. So again, I can share that with you all when it is time, but that's something that we typically do right towards the end of the year, and then maybe a follow-up during the summer as well, too. So.
Sounds good. Everyone good? You have new business?
Not for transportation, no.
Yeah, I'm all set with transportation.
Old and new.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, are we able to get an update on Whitson's at all? Yes. And the
So
value
Eric
they
asked me to add that to an upcoming agenda. So food service, either next.
Can we have it on the next agenda?
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll be the next agenda.
All right, that's good.
I have sad.
Can
go
I
ahead.
request some of the information?
Oh, sure.
That I'd like?
Yeah.
I just want to know what value they're adding right now. Because to me, I don't see that there's, some of the promises they had made, I don't see that there's a huge increase in the amount of meals being purchased. From what I hear, and again, from what they presented, I think initially there were a lot of different food choices, and I think that that's now dwindled down to a lot fewer choices. I guess I just want a full update on, is it working the way it was intended to work? And is there any value in keeping them? Or can we bring it back in-house again?
And we could submit a new RFP too, right? In theory? Or how long is our
Option year of
contract?
the contract? You're saying the option year of the contract?
Okay, so we have to keep them for one more year, but then we could either bring in-house or submit a new request for bids?
We're not sure.
Okay,
We have to
okay.
keep them for one more year.
Oh, okay.
We're sort of trying to decide. There's
Okay.
been a lot of management turnover.
Okay.
We could do another RFP, but if we do an RFP for service, DESI is now involved in that process, so that slows it down
Okay.
a little bit, so we'll have to give you a timeline there. But we will have information for you all to think about, and we can have that conversation.
Through the chair, yeah, the management turnover, I'd kind of like some statistics on that too, because I know that's been kind of a frustration, and I know, again, the initial person assigned to us, people didn't get along with very well to begin with, so I'm just trying to see what the history has been on that as well.
We also have need for an executive session.
Just quickly, under just one other thing, I did send you some draft legislative language from the Senate. The House and Senate the language is the same. There is a lot of momentum. Someone mentioned New Hampshire earlier. New Hampshire did pass sort of a bell-to-bell piece. The legislation has a lot of momentum. That was the briefing that I received last week. There's a significant amount of, I'm going to call non-school requirements as well. So just, again, if you're having trouble sleeping, read draft legislation.
Give us a summary. What is it about?
It's about the
only 10
banning
pages. I
of
thought
cell
it'd be
phones,
longer.
but it also is talking about limiting access to social media sites. And the state would put a lot of pressure on social media companies, but would also put a lot of pressure on parents. So I think it's a pretty broad piece of legislation. There's a school impact, which is limiting cell phone usage during school, but I think there are much broader implications, and it's obviously going to be something that's driven through policy. So you'll hear about it as it moves forward. I just wanted to give you a bit of a preview.
Through the chair, I had a question about funding for the removal of phones. Like is there any funding behind this?
I don't believe there is currently, and that would be something that we would talk to the state about. Again, they don't like unfunded mandates, but it wouldn't be that far-fetched that this would move forward without funding. So.
Something for us to consider.
Yeah, so I have to turn my mic on. So anyway, so that was the point. It's not immediate, but it's something that we're going to need to discuss.
We have need of executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect to the bargaining position of the school district, and chair so declares, section 21A, subsection 3. I don't have all the language, but we'll only return to general session for the purpose of adjournment.
I move we go into executive session.
Second?
Mr. Brooks?
Aye.
Ms. Novichok?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Monaco?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. We're in executive session.